And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution is not going to get that man today. No, because I'm going to get him.
This is the Hagmann and Hagmann report for today, Thursday, December 6, 2012. I'm Doug Hagmann. Along with me is my co-host, Joe Hagmann. He's also my son. Folks, you're about to hear 3 hours of unbiased and uncensored news and analysis. This is information you need to know in these perilous times in which we live. Folks, we're picking up listeners from all across the world, and I want to welcome all new listeners tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we broadcast each and every weeknight from 8 p.m. until 11 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can find us on the internet at HomelandSecurityUS.com. Also, we are broadcasting in high def on the Christians United Broadcasting Network, as well as our audio. Folks, you can pick us up on the Christians United Broadcasting Network. I want to thank Troy for being a tremendous asset to this show. We're also simulcast on a couple of AM radio stations. You know who you are, and if you're not, they're small stations. So, but having said that, Joe, welcome to tonight's program.
Glad to be here. Last night we had an excellent show with Steve Quayle. He came on and talked about a bunch of different things, precious metals and the importance that they can have in barter systems when economies collapse. And
it was a great show. Last night's show was from 9 to midnight, and we didn't hit. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to apologize. We did not get a chance to ask all the questions that were sent to us. A lot of great questions.
Very many. Right.
But the people who listen know we were trying to squeeze them in as much as we could. And I'm sure we can do it again sometime. And
I just also want to let people know. Look, there are some things going on that behind the scenes that everything's fine, by the way, but things that are rather, well, they're trials, if you will, and they certainly stretch. They're struggles, and knowing that, without getting into details, just understand we're doing our best, and we're doing our best, and this is going to be about tonight. We're going to get into some things tonight, folks, that kind of some behind the scenes information.
Yeah,
that's relevant to what's going on here. So the first couple of hours, and we're going to be structuring our program this way. For the first 2 hours, we're going to ask people not to call in. We're going to just take calls in the third hour because we've got so much to get through.
Yeah, what we're going to do, at least maybe the first hour and a half some nights, but the first 2 hours, depending on what we have planned, we're going to keep open for us to do news, and the second half of the show, we can add calls. It seems to go a lot smoother like that.
Yes, it does.
But, we'll still have phone calls, and we'll dedicate, that third hour mostly to phone calls, and we'll shut up and let you get stuff.
That's right. And it's not to take anything away from the callers, because, folks, you are part of this program. Indeed, you're a very warm part of the program, and you add a lot of information. Your observations are right on the money, and I truly believe it. And I really don't want people to think that I'm just saying this, but I think we've got the most intelligent, most in tune audience of any talk radio show out there. I really believe that, just by the quality of the questions that we're getting, and the quality of comments, and the observations that we're getting. It's just tremendous.
Yeah, and if you guys can hear the quiet talking in the background, that is Troy from Christians United Broadcasting Network. he's got some new equipment, and he's using it and messing around with it. So
I was wondering about that.
He'll get that taken care of.
Party line, it's almost like a party line.
No, but we are live on video at Christians United Broadcasting, Justin TV, also Homeland Security US, the number 1.tk. There's a bunch of other people who listen to the show who also stream the show. I do not have my laptop with me, so I don't have the bookmarks to name them all. But
we want to thank you for that, and it's important because the things that we are now going to begin to talk about, and I want to really make this kind of drive this point home. And the schedule today was such that Joe and I really did not have a lot of time to coordinate our show preparation. It's not that we don't have preparation done; we do. It's just not coordinated with one another. So if we kind of bump heads, it's because of that lack of coordination.
Yeah, and I want to say this: when you're writing Benghazi stories, getting to the truth of that, working really hard at getting this information out, and that entails talking to a lot of people for long periods of time.
It does. Yes,
so
it does.
It's been hard to get together and get on the same page in the last week and a half, 2 weeks for the show, because I could come over here 2 hours before the show or 6 hours before the show, but regardless, you're on the phone for most of the time getting your information together. And
I've got a phone stuck in my ear, which and it's necessary. Much of it is necessary because there are so many things that are taking place that to see what's behind the curtain is so necessary to understand what's being shown outside or in front of that curtain. And a lot of the stuff behind the curtain is what we're dealing with, and that's something that when we provide you with information, and I truly believe that we're one of the few shows that are able to give that information about what's going on behind the curtain. Is there any way, by the way, to turn that sound down, or?
He must have just stepped away from his computer for a sec, because I was just talking to him, and he's not responding. So,
all right, so
it won't be
a little distracting.
Couple minutes tops. Right. We got a lot of news we're going to get into tonight. Yesterday, I said this in the chat room, that if people wanted to continue the talk or had any follow-up questions about last night, we're not experts, but some things we do know.
Well, we've done a lot of conversations with Steve, and so I can.
So when we take calls, we can get into that stuff too, right. And also what we're going to talk about tonight. We got a lot of news we're going to get into.
But before the news, I just want to open up with this, or just say this, my little monologue here. Folks, I truly believe, and this, and Joe and I were talking about 15 minutes before airtime. I truly believe that what we're seeing right now, and take this for what it's worth, but what we're seeing right now is the opening, or is the conversion of the old into the new. What's happened before. We are entering into a time where the actions of the globalists now are being implemented at breakneck speed. They were waiting for, domestically, they were waiting for the ceremony of the elections to be over. And I say ceremony because maybe I should say theater, because that's all it was, is theater. Now, since that is behind this regime, and I'm kind of talking a little slow, and I'm doing it deliberately because I think this point is so important.
Was that the vodka you drank before the show?
Yeah,
no,
I haven't had a drink in I don't know how many years. What's taking place right now is things are being set up, things are being put into play that were just ideas and on the agenda, on the to-do list. Now it's off the to-do list, and now it's being implemented. The New World Order, and yes, there is such a thing as a New World Order. Yes, there is such a thing as global governance. And of course, we don't have to. I mean, I'm talking to the choir. If you're listening to this program, you understand that. But the information that I've been collecting from different sources different government departments, different authenticated sources of information suggest that we are now watching. We are watching the implementation of what's been planned, at least for the last 4 years. But more importantly, what's been planned for the last perhaps century.
And it has been in planning.
Yep.
It has been in the planning under the protection from exposure by the media. They have them in their pocket.
That's right.
It has been protected and for the agenda furthered by people in the media, in politics, as they are, I'm sure, promised certain things for doing that. And in reality, they are in the same boat as we are, as the average person is. These people are playing for keeps. They want the world to themselves. They want to help Lucifer carry out the agenda of him exalting or trying to exalt himself above the Most High.
You know, and this is key, folks, to me. And I've come to this point kicking and screaming, but now after looking at the evidence at hand and documentation and authentication of various things, it's truly a very spiritual battle. The war is being waged on a spiritual level, and the war is being waged on a practical level. And things that Steve Quayle has said in the past, for example, there are no political solutions to our spiritual problems. You know, it amazes me to sit back and to see there are people in this country that continue to hang on with dear life these attempts to solve the political problems or the problems of this country with politics.
I think a lot of that has to do with their lack of knowledge.
It does
of
indeed.
Spirituality.
Right. And
it's like trying to fix a car with a instruction manual for a refrigerator. It doesn't work. It doesn't.
That's a good
fit.
That's a good way. That's a good way to put it out. Yes, point it out. But see, I one of the issues, and I know Steve mentioned last night that there's a lot of animus, there's a lot of people out there that have large or significant internet significant presence on the internet. Various web forums, it could be Tea Party forums, it could be Republican forums, it could be survival forums. It doesn't matter, but there are a lot of very significant, very large numbers of forums where there's a lot of interaction among what I would think at one time were like-minded people. Conservatives,
right.
Christian conservatives.
And let's put this in context. Like-minded people don't always have to agree.
No, of course not.
On individual issues, but they are like-minded in a sense that the main important goals are the same.
Right.
Smaller government.
Getting back to the Constitution.
Stable economy. Yeah.
Right. And doing things right. And what's taking place, and this is what really drives Steve mad, and rightfully so. And I'm starting to see I'm starting to understand his rage against this, and why he would talk about this to the extent of even causing some people to say, "Oh, come on, get off that." Well, it takes on a life of its own, and here's what is going on, and here's why this is so important. When you are involved in a larger agenda, and that's attempting to provide everyone the truth, when I say the truth, I'm talking about looking at various news stories and saying, well, okay, this is what, for example, Fox News is reporting, and this is on the other hand, this is what's really going on. Well, there are people who will take issue because Fox News is their baby. The same on the other side with MSNBC. It doesn't really matter. But what is happening is when you attempt to enlighten or attempt to provide information on the various interactive forum types. And I see this happening to a lesser extent within our own chat room.
And I'll say this, though, about that, about the chat. We have so many people in there. This is the most well-behaved chat room I've ever seen in my life. There's always going to be people, troublemakers, agitators,
right?
Paid operatives, people who disagree. People are at different stages of their spiritual development, and it comes across. And we all have our own faults that we're working on. And
believe me,
people, you can see the change in certain people in the chat room. And these are good changes from 3 months ago, where they may been a little rigid, rough around the edges, are now you could see much more at peace, like they have the Holy Spirit with them. It is very encouraging, and other people notice it.
It's a dramatic positive change, but what I see taking place right now is the formation of armies, if you will, and maybe that's the wrong word, but the formation of groups, the formation of people with the same ideologies. There's an active coalescence, an active grouping of these people right now taking place, whether it's in the virtual world or in the real world. It's taking place, and this is a good thing, because now we can identify and we can say, okay, these people are with us, or it would appear that these people are with us. There's also a level of betrayal that is involved in this. There are people that will show up and they are not who you think they are or who they say they are, and those are people who are straight from the look. These people are, their sole purpose is to assail the messenger, if not terminate the messenger, or terminate the message, and if they have to terminate the messenger.
Now, what message or messages? Because we see a lot, and I have a point to this.
Okay.
Example: in Australia, the Prime Minister Julia Gillard says the end of the world is coming. Because of the Mayan calendar.
No.
Okay.
We
talked about
that's
the
not
fear
going to
mongering.
happen. Right. That's right.
And how the real media, the mainstream media, is the real agitators of this fear, the promoters of this fear mongering.
Yeah, they exacerbate that, and in fact, they exacerbate it to absurd levels. And by doing so, they make people like us attempt to make people like us appear to be Looney Tunes. Okay, by even addressing certain things.
Apparently, I'm wrong. It was a joke video. I'm sorry.
Well, it doesn't really matter. Okay, it could be a joke. It could be satire. It doesn't really matter. The process is the same.
Yes.
And I just didn't happen to see what you were referring to, but nonetheless, but here's the important part here. I think here's where everyone has got to get on board. We are now approaching a time where we have to decide. We have to decide exactly what our course of action is going to be, and my problem is this: based on everything I'm looking at, and based on an evaluation of all the facts in front of me, I really don't think that we've got a lot of time left now.
What do you mean?
Okay, I'm not talking about the end of the world. No.
America's Lord and Savior was just reelected to another 4 years.
Right.
He can do and save anything. What are you worried about?
Yeah, and
that's the attitude most of the Americans have, whether they even support Obama or not. The too big to fail mentality.
Well, and we're going to find out that the too big to fail and the too big to jail are part and parcel to what's about to take place here, because as much as it pains me to say this, the America that we once knew, the Norman Rockwell type of America, if it did exist, even if in the ideology of people, it's over. Now, does that mean that the country is over? No, and it doesn't mean that the world's coming to an end.
Okay. And I just want to add here, I don't mean to keep interrupting. When you say the country won't be over, what are you saying? America will survive?
Well, no. What I'm saying is, people have a tendency to look at what's taking place and saying, "Oh my gosh, it's the end of it's the end of America," or we can
because
the physical end of the country.
The Ann Barnhart video.
Okay.
And I wrote it on that sheet of paper.
I've got it right here.
She says something for the people who refuse to acknowledge the reality that America is dead. Something along those lines.
Well, yeah, the spirit of America is dead. And
I don't think it's the spirit of America. Our foundation, spiritual foundation, is gone. It's pretty much illegal now. The law of the land, being the Constitution, is gone.
Right.
The money system, the wealth of this nation, is gone.
Or let me say, or all of these have been corrupted. Okay.
I don't think we have anything left except each other and this American spirit that people hold individually.
Okay.
The people in Washington don't hold the spirit of America. They want this new world order, and America doesn't fit into that equation. America is, or will be, North America. It will be one of the driving forces of this new world order.
Okay, well, let me put this another way. If you look back in history, at all times in history, if you go back to Great Britain during World War II, at the height of the bombing, of the German bombing Great Britain, or even if you go back to the American Revolution, during the American Revolution, Thomas Jefferson, he was. He still ran a business and did what he did, and other business went on. I mean, life did not stop in America because of the American Revolution, just as we had in Great Britain. We've seen that life didn't stop in Great Britain because they were getting the heck beat out of them or bombed out of them. So what I'm saying to you is, just because we are headed for this huge transformation that will become obvious, and things are going to change. No, there's going to be a different normal. That does not mean that people still won't be celebrating Christmas or having weddings and working, and life will go on. It's just going to go on in a completely different fashion.
For some, life will go on semi-normal.
Right.
I mean, considering all the different things we have to take into consideration, the disability, Social Security, welfare, if those systems are shut down, you're going to have half or more of the country going crazy.
Well,
so even the people who are prepared and have things together and are expecting it are going to be in a bad place. So,
but see, okay. Kind of like during the Depression of the Great American Depression, that affected pretty much everybody, but it affected everyone differently. If you lived in the city versus if you were out in the farm, if you were in the West operating a farm, you were not immediately affected. I mean, and we can argue the nuances of the various minutiae about this, but looking at the bigger picture, and this is how it's going to play out. When you say about taking away the benefit cards, perhaps, or them not working, or something to that effect, certainly the cities are going to be in flames. And George Washington, folks, remember George Washington, his vision of the cities being in flames. Remember that vision.
I mean,
okay. Well, the countryside, the farms in the country. He wasn't talking about the farms and the rural areas. He's talking about the cities.
So the White House was once burned down by the enemy.
Right.
Our history.
Exactly. So what I'm telling you, I'm saying this for a reason, and here's the reason. And I cannot stress this enough. I know that we talked about this last night. Every one of us were alive today because we have been selected, appointed to be alive today. In order to get through what we've got to get through, we have got to play our zone. We've got to do our job. We've got to keep our wits about us, and we have to play our zone in this virtual game of survival. And one point I mentioned yesterday was there are people on the tip of the spear, the people that are the forward people. I don't even like to use that word because of the association with Obama. But if you're out there and leading the pack and at the tip of the spear in the army of truth, you are holding that position. If you are there by yourself, holding that position, you become quickly a target. Okay? So to win this battle, what we need are for people just to show up at that point position. Remember, and I printed this picture out and gave it to John. Remember the tanks in Tiananmen Square? That one man. Picture this in your mind. Tiananmen Square, China.
Yeah.
That one man that's been standing in front of the tanks.
Didn't he get run over?
No. He stopped an entire column of tanks. One man. Think about the courage it took that one man to go out in Tiananmen Square and stand there, facing down the Chinese army. Now, that said, our current situation, we can be that one man. But what we have to do, or what we need to do, is rally up enough people to simply show up. If we are going to be that one man, we need people to accompany us, to be a part of that.
And we do, right now, have a great number of excellent people who do have a concern about the future of themselves, their neighbors, their family, and even everybody they don't know.
That's exactly.
And everybody out there knows who they are. But we need, more. And it's not us, the country. The Lord needs the help of His people.
We are vessels. And this is the other part. We're vessels. This is how I look at me. I mean, I look, and I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. Who am I? I mean, who in the world am I to be able to do this? Well, it's not. See, that's the thing too. And Steve and I talk about this. It's not me. It's not you. It's the Lord working through us. So all we have to do is simply show up. All right. And when I say that, I'm talking about support the point people. Support. Don't let them hang by themselves, because they become a target for the snipers out there. And you cannot sustain a forward position by yourself. You've got to have reinforcements.
And one of the things I wanted to add last night when Steve mentioned it and didn't, when he talked to, I don't know if I got a chance to, when he talked about people who were worried about what to do with their extra money.
Didn't we give our address out at that point?
No,
I'm sorry.
We have to not only concern ourselves with our family, but we always talk about how people are so closed-minded to what's going on, the truth of what's going on. But when things do happen, you'll be the first person they come to, all these people that you were telling us about.
That's exactly right.
And for those of you who do have that extra money, I think it is our duty to make sure we care for as many people as physically possible, regardless of what the costs are to us. I mean, we lose our savings over it, big deal. The rewards here, the things on this earth are worth nothing compared to what is valuable in eternity.
And folks, I think, and Joe, you made a great point. And I think that kind of strikes at the heart of what I'm saying. Is we have to think now of in bigger terms. We realize that the country is broken. We realize that the system is broken. And if you would happen to just maintain this, knowing the system is broken, you cannot rationally listen to, we'll say, a Rush Limbaugh who talks about Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, and liberals, that kind of thing. and expect to get the answers there. That's not. You're not going to find answers there. I'm not dissing Rush Limbaugh. I'm not by any means. Nor would I diss Chris Matthews in the same regard either.
It's like the politicians debating on what to cut, what taxes to raise,
right?
And not addressing the Federal Reserve, which is the real problem. Like Rush Limbaugh will address issues here or there, but not addressing the root problem of, especially the spiritual element, and how the two-party system is not a two-party system. It's a one-party system. And I did hear a couple minutes of Glenn Beck today where he was talking about the abolishment of the two-party system. They need a new political party.
Well, and you know what, Joe, I believe that is going to prune itself. It's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you look at what happened in the last election, I mean, are you serious?
It's convenient after Ron Paul leaves that he's advocating for another new party. They had the perfect chance this election to get somebody elected who wouldn't have been a mainstream Republican or Democrat, but
what we're looking at, in my view, is you've got like the mafia that Hoover for years said didn't exist. You've got the New York mob fighting the Chicago mob. That's a Republican versus Democrat mentality.
What are they fighting over? Obama money?
No, control. You know, it's all about control. So this is, to put it in the most simplest terms, or because I'm a simple guy, I don't like to complicate things. So let's get to the root of the problem. But and so we cannot look to the political structure. If we are planning right now, if in your mind you're sitting back and you're thinking, you know what, we're going to kick butt in 2016. Or the next election, we're really going to change things. I'm doggone mad.
Yeah, I heard Sean Hannity talking today when I was running around doing errands, and he was talking about how the changes the Republican Party needs to make before the next election.
Okay,
if those
that ship has sailed.
Decades ago, but we, most of us, all of us, are late to that party. 20 years ago, if I knew what I do now, I would have been saying, it's over,
right,
politically.
And I think that's the whole point of my introduction here, if that's what this is to say, okay, we have to stop thinking in terms of, the next election, because the chances are there won't be another election. And I'm surprised we even had this one. But I don't know. I seriously,
I'm not in hindsight now, because I guess the plan all along was to keep Obama in power. I was worried about the unrest if Obama were to lose, what would happen, and the regime changing, what would come in the beginning of Romney's terms, as far as him having the nominees, the PNAC people, the neocon people, the same people on the other side of the coin from Obama.
Well, the elections are just theater, and that's what we have to understand. So here is, looking at things at this point, I see where I truly, here's what I believe. And this is based on research, analysis, everything I can come up with. The America, the United States as we know it, is over. Now, does that mean, like I said before, I guess it depends what the word "over" means. Well, will there still be weddings and parties? And yes, will there still be commerce? Yes.
And where do we know that from?
Meaning, in the days of Noah,
from the Bible,
right? But we are going to be faced with a tremendous, folks. We are facing a tremendous challenge. And at this point, this is not the time for you, for me, or for anyone to curl up in a fetal position. We have to rise to the challenge and be spiritually. We have the armor of God on us. We have to advance against the oncoming enemy. We have to draw the line or hold, Everyone has got to identify the line in the sand and say, we are not going to cross this, regardless of what it means to us. And think about the Declaration, the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Think if they had an internet back then, okay? Think about how it would be. You think that this program or people like Ann Barnhart, her, for example, her, I don't want to say rants, but her spirited discussions. Do you think that those no, those are tame compared to how it would be back then. Okay, now we have to say, all right, we are, at this point, we have decisions to make or have made decisions. Now we are going to fight. Or now it's enough is enough. It's over. I will not be continually compromised. My values will not be continually compromised. And I'm going to make a statement right here and right now. There is no way in the world, ladies and gentlemen, that I personally will subscribe to or cooperate with Obamacare, the Affordable Health Care Act. Not one penny of my money will be used to fund abortions, to fund Planned Parenthood, or whatever you want to call it. Now, I understand when I say that, I understand, well, there's income tax, there's this, there's that tax. Okay, no. What I'm saying to you is, this is one of many lines of mine. I'm not going to do it. I have a moral, spiritual, religious, God objection to this. It's and
by saying that, does it hold any water? I mean, look at the Catholic Church or the other churches that are fighting this mandatory health care birth control mandates. I mean, does it matter when you're when you're saying? I know personally, yes.
Well, of course.
When you're trying to plead to a court or the government or
no. See, okay.
And
and this is what people have to understand. Forget the courts. The courts are corrupted.
Yes.
The courts have been bought off. Folks, the system is broken. You've got John Corzine who could steal $1.6 billion flippin' dollars and walk around and
donate
parties
to Obama.
For Obama. And you've got a Justice Department that won't touch him, but they'll throw a guy that steals a DVD from a store in jail, or steals $50 from an employer in jail, and we expect to get our redress through the justice, through the judges. Are you serious? No way.
You remember Gibson Guitars?
Yes.
How they went after them? Yeah, it's selective enforcement. It is a symptom of tyranny and authoritarianism, and it is the system we live under. We say it constantly. There's an illusion of freedom, and I want to, whenever you're ready to get into the news, I'm going to give you an example of this illusion.
Just hold on a second. But what I'm trying to say is, our judiciary is broken. There are no checks and balances with our Congress. The people who are applauding the Tea Party, or the people who think that the Tea Party candidates in Congress are going to save the day, where have they been? They're absent. They're AWOL. They're not going to save the day.
They're not going to save anything.
Okay, John Bonnier. People. I see people out there saying, "Well, Bonnier's got to grow a spine." If he hasn't grown one now, it's over with that. That system is broken. Those people are compromised. You're not going to find any redress in the courts. You're not going to find any checks and balances within our government. You've got nothing but a Marxist oligarchy in place right now, and that is fast on its way to a communist system. And I'll be damned, I will never be a slave to this communist Marxist slug that is occupying the White House. Not now, not tomorrow, not next month. And I'll tell you what, now that's not a threat, it's not violence, but I am, there's absolutely no way that I will compromise my religious beliefs to satisfy a satanic government that thinks that they can run roughshod over my morals, my family, my spirituality, my religious beliefs, my Christian beliefs.
Right.
It ain't happening.
Right. I mean, we can tolerate the changes of laws as much as we hate losing our freedoms and liberties. But when they conflict with God's laws, that's where there's no room for...
There's no room for conflict.
Right. And you know, it is very important that we never, ever compromise. Because we're talking about our eternal soul.
That's right.
Compromise for what? To make someone else happy and not lose our earthly body? Or to have... what are you going to do? Compromise and live in a labor camp for a few more years before they kill you? I mean, what's that?
Yeah, you know,
it's amazing.
It's like this. And I will die at the end of my driveway before I you know, and people say, well, you know, we should. No, look. Here's the deal.
People say we shouldn't. What?
You know, people say, well, you know, you should. We have to play by the rules and, you know, work within the system, or, you know, there are people that come up with these creative ways or these end around certain things. And look, I understand all that. I understand. Now, I'm not trying to be a star that burns out quickly, or I'm not trying to be a star at all. I was thinking about the, you know, the celestial object, you know, the things that burn out real quick. Like, oh, you know, I'm not trying.
We always want to be a star in the eyes of the Lord.
Well, in the eyes of the Lord, that's correct. I've got nothing to prove. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is what we need to do is individually decide where our line in the sand is, stick to it. And in the meantime, and with love, and with deliberate caution and care and understanding, let's bring others along with us. Let's talk to others. Let's talk this out among other people, because I don't know, folks, are we back? Can you hear us? Can you hear us now? All right, there, it's back. Apparently, and ladies and gentlemen, I was told with authority that our program specifically is being, shall we say, messed with, trifled with. All right, by and there are these mechanical devices, clone dialers, that type of thing, that will do certain things to cut us off the airwaves.
We have a PDF, like a 200-page PDF, describing all the different ways that websites, radio, internet radio shows, broadcasts, YouTube videos, social networking media can all be the different tools they can use to interfere with it,
right.
You know, screw it up, and it is just remarkable. I mean, they have things in the works that we couldn't imagine. They probably have hundreds of thousands of people on the government payroll just to mess with people on the internet.
Well, we do know that they've got about 3,000 that are full-time employees of the executive branch. Now, when I say the executive branch, that's exactly what I mean. Okay, from this commander-in-chief, supposed commander-in-chief, alleged commander-in-chief, that are doing the work to cut off certain communications, or to not cut them off, but to play with them, cause all kinds of havoc. This is what we're experiencing. Not all the time. I mean, things happen. Look, things do happen, but there's a lot that doesn't. But just to wrap this up, here's what I just want to, really want to drive home with this, with everyone. You know, none of us are going to get through what we're about to go through alone. anyone listening to this program, folks, what I'm saying to you is you don't have to get through it alone, even if you are physically alone. Okay?
It's funny that what you were just talking about, the being messed with, our show being messed with. I've heard it from individuals separate from you, and you've heard it about our show being tampered with, and Christians United Broadcasting Network said it was nothing on his end, it was on our end, and nothing popped up. If the internet goes out, we can see it. And these are the things we deal with all the time.
Well, right, and look, but sometimes
you get cut off right when you're talking about.
Yeah, and sometimes I've got to tell you, it's sometimes it just happens. It's not nothing nefarious, but other times it is by design. But just to wrap this up very quickly is this: you are not alone, even if you are sitting in a room at the YMCA with your laptop and nothing else, or your iPhone or whatever personal listening device you might have listening to this program, by a single light bulb, and a bed, even if that's your station in life right now, and I hope it isn't, but if that is, understand you are not alone, because we're there with you. We are all in this together. You are not going to survive what's coming by yourself, and we are not going to survive what's coming, without the armor of God. And we're not going to survive by believing that any person in the government is going to help us. It's not going to happen.
Just like the stories that they're now reporting when people do good things that are normal, go out of their way to do nice things for other people. Those are big headlines because it's so rare. So will the help from individuals in the government be? I mean, you might find a few here and there who generally are trying to help people, but
that's something that I find I just love. There are a number of great people out there, and so many times, there's talk about police being these bullies, and they shoot dogs, and they taser people, and they punch people in the face, and they beat people up. I understand that. I fully understand that, but there are also a number of people out there that would give the shirts off their backs. And knowing that and aligning ourselves with those people and creating an army, God's army, for the glory and in the spirit of God, to fight the evil. Because what we're fighting, folks, is pure evil. It is satanic in nature. And that brings me to what I referenced about Hillary, that homework assignment about Hillary Clinton. Okay, tomorrow we'll finalize that homework assignment. But I'll give you my take, and many people have given me theirs, and I want to congratulate a lot of people for seeing exactly what I was talking about. But we'll finalize that tomorrow. But this is what we're fighting. We're fighting such a long-planned evil that this is the culmination of those plans. Now they are gradually taking off their masks. We are seeing them for who they really are. Yeah. And Joe, I got to tell you this, at the very end, and I think this is supported by Scripture. When at the end of upon judgment, we're going to look at these people and see pathetic, little, mindless, just above room temperature IQ, sniveling, satanic nothings that are to be exposed for who they are. But in the meantime, we have to fight against what we're facing. And we have to make we have to make spiritual preparations, mental preparations, and physical preparations, all three. And in so doing, that we have to also make alliances, be part, get together and be part. And I just think that this is so important, because many people get on the airwaves and rant. Many others get on the airwaves and just read news headlines. Other people get on the airwaves to do other things. But if we are not constructively planning and saying, okay, here's where we're at, here's what we've got to get through, here's probably the best way to do it, or maybe here are a few ideas of how to get through that, then we are failing. So we can't afford to fail. Not today. Not at this very moment. We cannot afford to fail. That's my point. And we won't fail. We won't fail. We might get bruised up. We might get a black eye. We might, I'm talking metaphorically, okay? Or
we won't fail if we turn everything over to the Lord. If we use Him as our crutch and our support.
Well, we've got to have, there's a certain amount of faith. When you go out into, I've never been in a battle.
There has to be a lot of faith.
Well, yes, of course. There's faith that when you take that step and say, okay, I'm going to stick my head above the crowd, and that the heads that are above the crowd are the ones that get shot at by the people out there, by your enemies. So but see, if everyone took a step up, or if everyone took a step forward, or if everyone said, no, this is the way it's going to be, in a perfect world, I mean, that'd be great. But you know what? Let's work with what we have. Try to convert the others, but let's work with what we have. And let's work as brothers and sisters in God and Jesus, and let's do something constructive. We're not limiting it to a rant, a monologue, a protracted monologue, or a protracted rant. We can do better than that. We can plan, and we can show what's going on, and then adjust our activities accordingly. But then again, there's got to be that bite there. There's got to be that sense of, no, and this is, enough is enough. This is no more. And not only that, we will force you to retreat, meaning the government, or the ideology of some of the policies, to retreat, to go back, because we're not going to. Not only are we not going to lose ground, we're going to gain ground. Is what I'm trying to say. We are going to recapture what we've lost, and that's my plan. I certainly hope that made sense, but that was on my heart, and I just wanted to share that with everyone. And as we go through the news and certain items of various importance, just keep what I said in the back of your mind, because what's behind the curtain is more important than what's in front of the curtain. What's in front of the curtain is nothing but distractions. It's white noise. And we don't need to be paying attention to that. We need to be paying attention to what's behind the curtain and adjusting our strategy accordingly.
Yeah, all right. You're absolutely right. I want to just add this. Our friend in Israel just sent a message saying there's heavy transports, possibly bombers, headed over there on their way to Jordan, escorted by fighters. They were so high up you could only hear the rumblings at ground level. So
things are heating up
in the Middle East are continuing. We're going to get into a bunch of news in the next hour. I wanted to open with this story, even though it's probably of the least importance out of all the stories we have. Great Neck Village Board bans front yard clotheslines. Officials in Great Neck, New York, don't want you airing out your dirty laundry, or clean laundry at that matter. The village board has banned the hanging of laundry on front lawns, making it a violation punishable by up to $1,000 or 15 days in jail. This is the headline of the story, how they're saying what you can and can't do on your personal property. That is the real issue here.
Story. It's not about a clothesline.
I'd say it's save energy. Don't flush your toilet ever. Use a dryer. Well, what's this about?
Well,
I thought that saves energy.
Look, in this case, okay. First of all, I think it's in bad taste to put it out in their front yard. But boy, talk about the actual the actual hanging your laundry in your outside your house. But yeah, I mean, look, I understand the concept. You don't want junk cars in your front yard. You don't want a washer on your porch. But to make it the government's business.
Yeah, and what this shows, I think it's so important to recognize this, is that you do not have a right to private property. the property laws or what you can and can't do with your property is dictated by the government.
But
and
see,
the restrictions
that's local too.
on that
That's
are
local.
becoming more and more and more crazy. No gardens. You have to have smart meters. I mean, pretty soon
that's the issue.
You're going to be illegal
about.
in your own house because you don't own your house. You don't have private property rights.
Well, right, and it's not about a clothesline, folks. It never was. When Joe brought it up, it's about the what you can and can't do on your property. Now, of course, you can't have a machine shop in your garage in a residential neighborhood. I understand the reasoning behind it, but that's why you've got certain homeowners associations and you've got certain local laws that address this. Now, that said, at what point? What's the stopping point? Let's just say you're a smoker and you're smoking in the front of your front yard, and the city council passes a law where you're not allowed to smoke on your own property outside. Okay, at what point? And this all goes together. At what point do people say, "Wait a minute, enough is enough"? You cannot tell me what to do on my own property in this extent. So a lot, but you're right, because the fight, by the way, that I was talking about is going to have to be fought on a local level as much as it is on a national level. So that's how this fits into everything else. Now it's about property rights. It's about what you can do and can't do or shouldn't do with your property. It's about laws like that.
Yeah.
So, but keep that in the back of your mind, because one of these laws at one of these cities in one of these times is going to push somebody the wrong buttons on a person. And could that possibly be the catalyst of? Could that be their line in the sand? That clothesline in the front? That's the line in the sand. It doesn't matter. We have to capture the spirit behind it. So this is all part of it. Go on. Let's continue.
We got a couple minutes before the top of the hour break. This is probably the most important story I wanted to talk about yesterday, but we had Steve on. All the reports of Assad making chemical weapons. There's Fox News everywhere is reporting that Bashar al-Assad is deploying chemical weapons across Syria to kill his civilian the citizens there.
Right.
And go back to what was it, Tuesday, and then to our site, the HomelandSecurityUS.com, and read the article, Chemical Weapon Reports in Syria Exactly as Warned. This is the propaganda at its finest. When you have all the mainstream media outlets throwing out a story like this, I want to know what proof they have that Assad is deploying chemical weapons, because there's a lot of problems with what they're trying to convey and get across here. They have reported for at least 6 months, well, at least once a week, in every major publication, newspaper, TV, that this is going to happen. This is going to happen. They're going to have the chemical weapons. Assad's going to use chemical weapons. New York Times. Assad's going to use chemical weapons. Well, that is the conditioning. So when it happens,
they're preparing you for the eventuality of
because the law
on the ground.
They're playing the law of numbers. How many people are informed versus how many people aren't informed. And
do you realize, folks, how many people don't even know where Benghazi is or what Benghazi is all about?
Yeah, people in the chat room were discussing that so many pundits on TV and people say we live in a democracy, and how aggravating it is, because we don't live in a democracy.
No.
We live in a constitutional republic.
Democracy is...
They went on to say...
Yeah.
Somebody went on to say, next time you get in that conversation, ask the person what the definition of democracy is. Of course they probably won't know. We are a nation of uneducated, lazy... Right. It's the things... The mechanisms for us to have evolved personally this way, to this level of comfort we have, were intentional. The elements of mind control through music, TV, Hollywood, all this stuff, the conditioning in the media is not... They don't waste trillions of dollars on this stuff a year just because they like to waste money. There is a huge purpose that this serves. And this is where we'll be seeing the division come from, brother against father, mother against daughter, or whatever.
That's one of the areas.
Right.
There's another, even more incisive part to that.
If people understood Syria, the people of Syria support Assad. The Al-Qaeda, United States-backed Al-Qaeda and Islamists are the ones who are starting this conflict against Assad. There were never protests until these people came in. And they started killing people. Right. The media started reporting that Assad was killing people. I mean, just look at Egypt. Egypt is a perfect example of what is going to happen when Assad falls. Or it doesn't even matter if Assad falls or flees or whatever. It's going to happen. They're overthrowing a person who is not a great person, but definitely not just a complete evil maniac, in the name of democracy. And in place comes something, a monster that,
that's right,
1,000 times worse.
Now, the other side of that, and when we get back on the second hour, we're going to address this. What you don't know, is the other half of the Benghazi of what is coming to the United States because of this, and what has already come to the United States because of this, but what's on the horizon.
Yeah, and a couple other things we're going to cover tonight. Florida officials considering releasing more genetically modified mosquitoes. Geithner says he's absolutely willing to go off the fiscal cliff. FEMA executives told FEMA teams to go sightseeing as Sandy victims were in need while they were in New York. Also, there was a proposal for the fiscal cliff that Obama made that they won't even put up for a vote in the Senate, because last time they voted on it, it failed 90-something to 0. It's so embarrassing and outrageous what's in these proposals that they won't even vote on it. Also, Gallup poll, 53% of Democrats have a positive image of socialism.
That, once again, that's by
big
design.
Problem.
Yeah, by design, and that has been years, decades in the making.
Yeah. Also, unemployment is back up above 8%, which is not true either.
No,
this is what the news is reporting. And if you remember, before the elections, it magically dropped down to below 8%, 7.9, 7.7, whatever it was, even though it never did. And it was just like Tom Ridge said in his book, they used the terror alert for political purposes when it was necessary to help them. This is the same thing, just a different mechanism. Obama used the jobless and unemployment numbers to try to make himself look a little better.
And yet people hang on that.
Right.
They hang on those numbers. They say,
no, they argue to the death about it. It's a recovery.
Right. And you've got, look, the various topics. Senator DeMint, head Heritage Foundation. Okay, that's great. He's going into the private sector. You've got all kinds of stuff. Republicans say no way to debt ceiling or to ceding debt limit power. It's all theater. Folks, we're right back after these messages. Hi folks, Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the Internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eilena Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP brick packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth squads specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies that work right there in your neighborhood: KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
Hold on to your seat. The Hagmann and Hagmann flight is now taking off. Doug and Joe Hagmann have cleared the runway of TSA agents, jihadists, political crackpots, and global elitists. Now get ready for some real news. Here they are, Doug and Joe Hagmann.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of this Thursday, December 6, 2012 edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, heard live each weekday, 8 to 11 p.m. I want to say, if you want to get in touch with us and you're on Twitter or Facebook, we have a Facebook page. The Hagmann and Hagmann Report is the Facebook page. We also have a Facebook page called Teen K9, and Teen K9 is our YouTube channel name, Twitter name, and also on Facebook. We never plug those.
That's right, and I'm also on Facebook under my name, Douglas Hagmann or Doug Hagmann.
And I'm on Facebook under Dean. No, I'm kidding.
No, we've got kind of a schizophrenic thing going. Folks in the chat room, if you can give me a hand here for a second, okay? I've been getting a couple of messages via email. Okay, can you tell me, is my audio muffled?
Yeah, some people say he sounds like the bass needs turned down, and the EQ, it's set both the same for both of us.
And I really dislike having to do this on air. Mike is too close to his mouth. All right. How does this sound?
You have such a big mouth; it's hard not to have it close.
I do. Now, folks, can you tell? I mean, help me out here. Well, let's work together so we can get through this. Is this any better?
Some say yes. Some say yes. Some say.
Okay, it is different. Okay, but is it better? Better or worse?
Sounds clear to me. Radio Preacher Man, how you doing? He says no.
Clearer. Okay, sounds good.
We'll continue to work on.
Sound is fine here. I just, thank you very much for that. I apologize for taking the airtime up, but I want to thank you for helping me out. All right.
Getting into some news here, we have a lot of things going on here. The NHTSA gets White House okay to mandate vehicle black boxes. I don't know if you saw this, but the National Highway and Traffic Safety Administration is expected to finalize a long-awaited proposal to make event data recorders standard in all new vehicles. In a notice posted Thursday, the White House Office of Management Budget said it had completed a review of the proposal to make so-called vehicles black boxes mandatory in all cars and trucks, clearing the way for NHTSA to publish its final regulation. This is from a bill that passed in Congress in 2010, and they are moving forward to begin putting black boxes in all automobiles.
And ladies and gentlemen, I would urge strongly, if you, for example, if you buy a new car ask. Now, I know some of these in years coming up will be mandatory for vehicles. Kind of like the catalytic. Remember the catalytic converters that we have? Remember how they brought those into existence? Well, and of course, I'm sure you know many people who disconnected them as well, and then reconnect them for state inspection if you haven't. But nonetheless, I would urge people to. Now we can do things with our pocketbook here. We can say no to catalytic or no to black boxes. At that time, I can see where this won't become a big issue.
But it is a big issue when considering and we talk about this a lot, the groundwork is laid out 100%.
Oh,
we have the legislation.
Yes.
All the legislation is there that the government can legally, and I'll just make it quick, kill us. They can legally kill us, confiscate all our stuff without any warrant or cause.
Yes, they can.
They have now the equipment, as the Department of Homeland Security and other government agencies have been on a crash course of bullet buying, bulletproof checkpoints, and all kinds of other survival and tactical, and outrageous amounts of tactical preparedness equipment. We have the NDAA, the Enemy Expatriation Act. Now we have the Mass Casualty Planning Act. Everything is in place except the dead bodies.
And people have to understand that this did not begin with Obama. And one big thing that really upsets me, to understand why we have Obama. The reason we have Obama is because of George Bush, in part. George Bush led us to Obama. In other words, he was complicit. Bush was complicit into bringing Obama into power, as was every elected leader in office. And this is bigger, again, this is bigger than Democrat, Republican, progressive, and conservative. This is about an ideology that has been long in the process, that began, you can argue it began after World War I with the creation of the Federal Reserve or the income tax, or it doesn't matter. It's been that long. And people who have tried to expose this agenda, like McCarthy in the 50s, were vilified by Hollywood, by the very people we have elevated today. They tried to expose what was going on way back when. And it also too. This is one other thing too. Current, for example, people talking about Alan West. Whoa, Alan West is such a great guy. Yeah, okay, relative to the current political environment. But don't forget,
if you like the NDAA,
Alan West voted for the NDAA.
Which I'm still confused over that.
I am too. Look, what people have to realize is we are now operating behind enemy lines. We are now, the people listening to this broadcast, we are the resistance.
The resistance. Enemies in the eyes of the government.
Yes, we are in the thick of the enemy lines. And people who think that they can go to Panama or Costa Rica or wherever to get away from this, you're not going to run from what's coming.
No,
you're not.
You might buy a couple minutes depending on where you end up, but
right.
It's coming to the world. That's why they call it the New World Order.
Right. Exactly. So I mean, but like with these these event boxes, fine. But okay, what about the practical measures today? People that I talk to, Progressive Insurance, for example, those snapshot things that put in your car, see how you're driving. Okay.
Snapshots.
Exactly, folks. That is more, there's more to that than meets the eye. Okay, it's understand. Look at the history. Look at the makeup. Look at the background of Progressive Insurance, for example, and then decide if that's what you really want to do. And that's just one example. But you're ceding, you're actually giving up your privacy, and various levels of your privacy for the illusion of saving some dollars. in your monthly budget. That's not true. One thing, before we get too far into something, I had mentioned before, well, I'm just kind of hogging the broadcast today.
Hey, I'll hang the headphones up and go home. You can take it away.
Well, I just want to thank, just real quick, I want to thank Jesse for sending me this.
Yeah.
Folks, I just want to say this. One thing I noticed that the darkness, that things really began to change based on my research, my extensive research and investigation. Things really began to change with the Olympics. The Olympics, and like I said, everyone was expecting some false flag event at the Olympics or something to happen at the Olympics. And we talked about this earlier in the week where everyone was expecting something to happen. Nothing happened. Well, okay. And it's, as I mentioned before, imagine being in a theater, a movie theater, and you're looking for something. You're looking for I don't know. You're looking for a clue of some kind, and you're on your hands and knees. I guess I just want you to picture yourself on your hands and knees on the floor of a darkened theater while the movie's playing or the play is playing on the stage. Well, what you're looking for you're not going to find it on the floor. The agenda of the globalists, the agenda of the people with the power, they have become so brazen. They're not hiding under the chair in front of you or behind you. They're not hiding in the hallway. They're not hiding in the balcony. They're right on the stage. We are looking, it's right in front of our very eyes. The Olympics, based on everything I've been able to and we'll spend some time on this during later shows. But the Olympics, as far as I can tell, and people might look at me and say, you know what, you're really... what is your neighbor's dog, Sam? Is he talking to you? That seriously. People say, come on, really? No, the Olympics, and don't forget the Olympics. How did the Olympics start? It was to entertain Zeus. Well, who's Zeus? Well, Satan, basically. But that said, the Olympics, in my view, based on my research, and I think others as well, and I defer to many others like Tom Horn, who will be on, and others, very, very much smarter than me. I feel the same way. Now Jesse writes this. I know you've been talking about the opening ceremony regarding the Olympics. Well, I've been talking about the entire thing, but okay. He says, I really want to direct your attention to the closing ceremony. And he provides an article here with some pictures and such. But one event that happened, and there are several things. We can dissect the Olympics as to how it applies. And folks, if you think, well, no, none of this applies. No, it does. It does. A lot deeper, and a lot was revealed during these Olympics. The timing, everything, a lot was revealed. But one of the things that he does mention, and this is the extent of how I want to talk about this tonight. Just as one example, let's see here, I'm looking at this. Okay, it's about when the flag fell, the American flag fell. Okay, let's see.
Dead air.
Yeah, dead air. How do you like that?
Okay. I hate jumping in to interrupt you because it's always you have it right there. And
I had it right here, and I want to thank you, Jesse, for putting so much time into this. But it was when it was during a ceremony. Let's see here.
I got it up here too.
Okay, so. If you find it, jump in here. When the American flag. Okay, here it is. During the Olympics, when they played our national anthem in honor of Serena Williams winning the gold medal, the flag falls right on cue to the phrase, and our flag was still there. He states, here is the closing song of the closing ceremony as well. Now, but just with respect to that incident, Serena, talking about an American being awarded the gold medal and having the American flag fall from the bracket. There was like this mechanical 3 armed bracket that was raised, and of course it was windy that day, so the flags were in fact bending with the wind. But never in the history of the Olympics had any country's flag fall. Did any country's flag fall? And trust me when I say this, there are redundancies built into the systems there. So people who look at it and say, "Oh, come on, it was just the wind; it blew the flag off," and you're making something out of nothing.
And Jesse says the crowd was laughing, or
right?
The crowd was laughing hysterically when this was happening.
Yes. Now look, I understand that things do happen. I understand that cars crash into each other, and you run into people in the grocery store that with your neighbors, and they're not following you. I understand all that. I'm not talking about some level of paranoia here that's beyond the pale. What I'm referring to in this particular incident, the timing was such that if you look at this not as a single event, but part of a series of events from the beginning to the end of the Olympics, so actually before the Olympics started to after it ended, but if you look at this as part of a continuing play or a series of events, you will see the significance that it has with respect to this country, the country known as America.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll tell you what. Because it's topical, I understand that Jesse's on the phone.
Yeah,
let's bring Jesse on.
He is on hold, and I didn't know.
When we do this, because I think it's important. I think this is important for us to talk about, because this is a marker in time.
Yeah, and Jesse, if you don't mind, I'll bring you on now, and if you don't have the time or got to go, just let us know. But Jesse, you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. I want to thank you for the information that you sent to my father and to me. I didn't have a chance to read all of it, but what I did read was very interesting, and you have a very good handle on this.
Hi, Jesse. What's your take? What's your take?
Regarding what, the flag, or
no, the Olympics?
The whole.
No, the entire Olympics. What is your take of the Olympics?
Well, I know there was a lot of symbology in the opening ceremony and everything like that. But because I watched the opening ceremony very closely, and to me it looked very organized, but at the same time it didn't look as organized as the closing ceremony. Whereas the opening ceremony seemed like it was more like a hidden type thing, but some people could still catch it. But the closing ceremony I think was more of the in your face, where, I mean, me personally, I mean, people would have to be blind not to see it. But especially with the music video that I sent you, with that the closing song, because it started out with these poles coming out, with these flames coming out, and as the flames bent down, then you saw this phoenix rising up, and it's very, very significant. And according to the pictures that I sent you as well, I think the ending was more of the in-your-face type, whereas the beginning was kind of like the whole hidden thing, and let's see if you can pick it out, and the ending of it was the more in-your-face. Also, this was on a fly notice. I got other papers too, but if you go on Google Earth and if you type in the coordinates to that stadium, and if you zoom out as well, you will notice that it actually is almost in the shape of the Eye of Osiris as well. Also, if you look at closely the stage, you can also see the wheel within a wheel, the spokes and everything like that. Basically the same thing with the Vatican. You know how the Vatican has a whole wheel within the wheel, and it's got that obelisk in the middle of it? It's
absolutely.
Kind of like the same out too.
Okay. And Jesse, let me be clear on this, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here, because people tuning into the show, they might say, well, I'm not listening to this to hear about the Olympics, or what's behind that. What's this in your mind? Okay, what is the significance? Why even bother talking about the Olympics? What's the significance? What significance does the Olympics hold for what's going on today, and what is about to take place in the near future?
Well, the significance to me after reviewing this thing, because I've been reviewing this basically since it was over, is there was a spiritual dynamic taking place, and obviously, regardless of how brutal a physical enemy is to us Christians that might not have that grasp take on it, it's really going to come close to the point where we're going to have to realize that our fight is not against flesh and blood, but against princes, principalities, powers, rulers of the darkness, and wickedness in high places. And that is the significance that I saw this climax coming to, and it was symbolized in that opening and more open closing ceremony. And obviously, since the closing ceremony, since the Olympics happened, just look at all the events that transpired. You got the Benghazi situation on 9/11. You got the whole December 21st thing, which I'm not looking at that as the end of the world. The shamans actually believe it's a dawning of the age of Aquarius. That's a whole new age term. And this whole World War III situation, which is also another spiritual dynamic. This is all about to bring, like that quote from Albert Pike, the pure manifestation of the pure doctrines of Lucifer, as he stated in his letter that he sent to Mazzini in 1871 when he predicted the 3 world wars.
Right.
So, when you see the term Lucifer, that's really given a strong indication of how this spiritual battle is going to take place. Throughout all this chaos that's going to be taking place, just think of the mindset of this. You got World War III. Now also throw in a disease epidemic. You got riots in the streets. These things are coming to a head at such an alarming rate that there's not going to be no denying it soon. And as far as atheists go, they're going to have to make a choice sooner or later of what they're going to believe in, because there ain't going to be no choice. Because this whole spiritual dynamic is really opening up, and I think it really opened up a huge hole at that closing ceremony.
Well, in your message you sent, you referenced Albert Pike and his letter about the world wars. And you referenced something else about it. About him. I can't remember off the top of my head. And it was about his letter talks about the Third World War being against the factions of Judaism and Islam, where atheism would be unleashed and Christianity would be stamped out. People who have listened to the show have heard Steve talk about it. What is your take? I just want to ask, what is your take on that letter? A lot of people doubt its authenticity. A lot of people have, opinions on it that are without proof. They just dismiss it.
Well, as far as keywords, like as far as where it says Zionism or which
Nazi
part of it.
No, the whole letter. Yeah, I think what Joe's asking is,
because you got a statue of Albert Pike in Washington, D.C. He was historically one of the highest-ranking Freemasons. People just doubt that the letter was written in 1871 because of its accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree that the letter, Albert Pike letter to Mazzini is authentic? It's not a forgery. It was done at the time it was done, or?
There's a lot of indication that it is authentic, but when I read it, and with the research I've done with this whole globalist plan, I see it as, regardless if it's a hoax or not. If it is, it's a pretty good hoax. I think it's very, very accurate. Obviously, when he talks about Christianity being destroyed, that's not going to happen. But
right.
But like the atheists being unleashed and everything like that. You look at this. I've been reading numerous accounts of articles about how atheism is on the rise. Over on contendingfortruth.com, I was reading the PDF that Scott Johnson was putting out, and of one of his listeners, and this listener had a posters that were in a bus that she was taking or something, and these posters were basically called like Kids Without God. Now this is a humanitarian website. I think it's sponsored by the UN, Kids Without God, and so I mean, it's, you know, the whole atheism thing is really ramping up. I mean, just like how that devil, you know, wanted that planned, but obviously the whole thing ain't going to go how he planned. But for the most part, as far as World War III and everything, I think is very, very authentic.
Okay. Well, now let me just revisit this Olympic situation. The reason I think this is important, Jesse, and you tell me if you agree with me because you've been looking at this. You know, first of all, the fact that we're currently, if we look at our station right now, where the condition of the United States and the condition of the world, we know that we're in trouble. We know that we're facing some crises, multiple crises, economic, military, or war-like things, and we know we know that there are people pulling the strings behind the scenes. Okay. And we know people are searching for answers, but we also know too that the people behind the scenes are becoming more brazen. We know the history of the Olympics and what they're all about. The fact that you know that they're entertainment, okay, but they're in this particular case, especially in the 2012 Olympics being held in London. This is the third time in the history of the Olympiad, which are the Summer Games, that it was held in London. 2012, okay, the 60th anniversary of Queen Elizabeth II, who, by the way, parachuted in, you know, with James Bond, so to speak, in the opening ceremonies. Okay, there are so many symbolisms, so many things that. And also the happened to be the same year on the anniversary of the 40th anniversary, the anniversary of Israel becoming a nation, not the 40th, but the 60th, the 6th. Never mind. It's sorry about that.
They went out in 47. They became a nation in 48. So I think it was I can't even do the math.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, but just to back up a ways, we know that the British royalty they're a big Illuminati type situation. The royal family, Illuminati. You're looking at London being the new Rome, for example. All of these things. This ritual, this magic act, this ceremony, highly orchestrated. This was highly orchestrated for not just the entertainment value, but to send a message, open message to everyone, a satanic message. And once again, you don't have to believe me, but look at the different the symbology contained within the Olympics. While everyone was looking for a false flag, it's right in front of our noses. And the reason it's important is because it involves the very people, the very bloodlines of people, the very people that are actually pulling the strings behind current events. And it gives us just as Benghazi gave us a window into what was really going on in the Middle East, the Olympics gives us a window into what's currently going on across the world and in the future. Is that about what you feel, or I mean the relevancy?
Yeah, pretty much. The thing is with these Olympics, you mentioned the false flag. I mean, believe you me, I mean, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, man, this is just, you know, because with all the reports I heard about the security, and there's not that much security and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, it seems like they're really setting that up pretty good, but I think they may have done that on purpose, just to, as a psyop, if you will, a psyop in a religio-political sense, basically, because maybe the false flag was actually the symbolism in the spiritual demonic manifestation type thing that was going on with those rituals and everything like that. Because even if you look at the Super Bowl halftime show with Madonna, I mean, that don't even compare to what we saw at the Olympics. I mean, me personally, I think there was a lot of massive significance. But I was taken aback by the flesh. I wasn't thinking spiritually. I was thinking, this is going to be another false flag and everything like that. And it's, and then it's like, well, I got to remember, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. So I got to think here spiritually. How is this, what's the spiritual aspect and the spiritual dynamic of this? So yeah, I mean, as far as opening the gates of hell, basically, I think that was a good step in that direction.
Okay, so we're on the same page. I mean, we are looking, like everyone else, we're looking for some sort of insight as to what's going to be taking place here in the near future, both practically or on the both real or tangible evidence, normal, shall I say, in quotation marks, normal evidence of what we can expect to take place. But then there's that level of symbology that there's this it's almost as if like they have to tell you what they're going to do before they do it, or they want to, or they're so brazen. Look, we control the world. We are the ones pulling the strings. We're going to show you. I mean, we're going to be so blatant about it. We're going to have all of this right in front of your faces, and while we're doing it, we're going to laugh at you because you're not getting it. So, but it's kind of like an inside joke. If you work in an office, it's like an inside joke, that type of thing. That's why I think it's so important. And I think that by, shall we say, decoding, in a way, the Olympics, we can see what they're thinking and what they're planning. And a lot has to do with, and where are all the banks? What's the seat of power, banking power, for the most part, in London is a big place. Of course, in other places, but London's big. So there's a lot of things involved in this, and but that's kind of why I was really focusing on that. Plus, you've got the Queen Elizabeth meeting with the Pope, first official meeting in recent history back in 2010. So you've got some mergers there. You've got so you think of New World Order. This is kind of like a window into that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a huge window.
That's right. So, yeah, and Jesse, this is why I believe that by looking at the Olympics, we're not going to find all of the answers here, but we can find some anecdotal evidence here to support our, to enlighten us and perhaps support our continued and additional investigation into what's going on. So that's why I think it's so important. But I want to thank you for sending me this. We're going to be delving into this topic a little bit more in depth at a future time. But I didn't want you to think, or the listeners to think, I was just focusing on the closing or opening. It's the whole thing, both before and after as well.
Right, yeah.
Any closing comments?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna, as soon as the more things I pick up on and stuff like that, I'll send them your way. I'm getting ready to open back up my site, which it's still open. I just haven't posted in a while because, I just been on my own thing, doing my own thing. But I'm gonna be posting regular blogs and articles on there, and I'm going to also link your articles in my site too. It's MegidoRising.com. So I figured I'm going to start doing that too, as well as my YouTube videos. And also, what I'm doing too is I'm I don't know if you're familiar with the Charles Spurgeon sermons. I'm also bringing those back up to light, so with like any spiritual nourishment, because I'm no preacher, okay, but I can do voiceovers. And if there's like any like spiritual nourishment that anybody needs, they can go on my YouTube channel, and I'll be uploading like my voiceover, reading Charles Spurgeon sermons and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as other closing thoughts, all I can say is there is a storm coming, a very, very strong one, and the only way we can pull through this is to rely on Psalms 91 and commit that to memory, and rely on the Lord, and we have to really realize and focus, and it's hard. It's very hard to get our minds on the flesh when our spiritual battle is not against flesh and blood, and we really have to really see that, in that aspect, that with these people that are doing these evil things and everything like that, and we have to understand that that's a spiritual manifestation going into those people doing these evil things and everything like that. So we have to also see that as well. But that's going to become made known, I think, very quick. As far as the timetable, I guess, really look forward in the next 3 or 4 months. I think it's going to get really hectic, anywhere from now until March. But if we I would extend that right through July as well. I'm not sure. But March, April, May, and at the outside July, I think we're going to be looking at an entirely different landscape. Landscape figuratively than we are now. So I agree.
James, I have your Skype information. I'd like to talk with you further on a couple of these issues, so I'll try to add you to the contacts when I get my Skype back up and running. And I appreciate the information you're sharing, and we will continue to go through this and figure out and expose as much as we can.
Yeah.
It's a lot to go through.
Oh, yeah. It is, and it's difficult, especially when this is kind of like the program kind of went sideways just for a little bit when talking about this one, but there's a lot here, and this, and you know what, folks, it doesn't matter whether we believe this. It matters what they believe. Just like the Muslims, it doesn't matter if we believe what the Muslims believe. It matters.
Look at it like atheists. Just because they don't believe, just because they believe God isn't real, doesn't make it true.
Right.
But everybody will find out.
But God bless you, my friend. Thank you so much for your call, and thanks for sending that information in.
Okay, all right, God bless.
All right, man. And I want to thank the listener from the other day, too, for sending that. The folks on HomelandSecurityUS.com, the top story on there is the did some investigation, the privacy notice from your health care. The caller, and I don't even want to name her. Did she give her first name? Because I really didn't want to.
No.
Okay.
Are we gonna have somebody call in? Are we expecting a call? Okay, I'm sorry.
No. That was an interview for something else I was doing. But folks, I just want to direct your attention to HomelandSecurityUS.com. The first story about the privacy notice healthcare. If you haven't seen that, please take a look at it. It's so important. It's also posted on CanadaFreePress.com. You can comment on it there, where something very unusual with these healthcare privacy notices. Have you seen these? The wording on these. The wording on this one. And ladies and gentlemen, I just don't know what to say about this. Other than the fact that we are in something, we're looking at something totally beyond the pale. The privacy notice here, it's a national security notice on your stating that the treating facility may disclose your health information to the feds. Okay, in order to protect the president. or other officials or foreign heads of state? What's that about? Think about that. You go to the hospital, and they may disclose your health information to the feds in order to protect the president? When have we ever, in the history of our country, when have we ever seen a warning like that? To protect a man? The president? Other foreign heads of state? What, if you have an bad opinion about Ahmadinejad, they're gonna report you to the FBI? Really?
People have been reported for much less. Look, I mean, now they have patriots, constitutionalists, Christians, preppers, anti-abortion people. There's just a laundry, and you're better off listening to the people who are not just saying those who do not oppose government are okay. Everybody else, domestic extremists.
Oh my goodness! All right.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, and it will continue to get worse, and nothing will be done because we are an indoctrinated society that has been brainwashed so thoroughly that those of us who have gotten out of it are truly blessed. I think back to 5, 6, 7 years ago and what I cared about, what was important, what I did. I don't know if the information was presented to me then, but aside from some 9/11 stuff, that I would, I mean, it's amazing the way things happen. It happens for a reason. It is by design, and the Lord has a lot to do with it. His grace and mercy is infinite, and we just must seek it, and He will change our lives. And I think that is truly the key, because you can have as much information on as many stories that are going on in this world as you want, but without that direction, that divine direction from the Lord, you're still lost.
I totally agree with you on that. But this is what we look in most, and I don't know. This is what we like our show to be, is to marry combine, if you will, the spiritual with the earthly, with the terrestrial. We have to use our spiritual gifts, use our spiritual power, use our pledge allegiance to Jesus, and use that as the spiritual armor, as well as the catalyst to fight against this growing threat to our freedoms. We're not free in this country. We don't have freedom. We don't have liberty. We used to, but we don't. So how are we going to get it back, or are we going to just roll over and play dead? Well, if we're not going to roll over and play dead and get it back, we have to rely and tap into, as you said, Joe, that spiritual element as well. So now you had brought up something about change on veterans' gun rights, lights a fire. And folks, if you haven't seen this, it's in the Washington Times. This kind of dovetails with the health privacy notice, because if you are deemed a threat by your own health provider to anybody, to anything, or if they think because of medication or your temperament that you shouldn't own a gun, it can be taken away.
Absolutely. The change on veterans' gun rights, Senator Colburn wants a decision by judges rather than the VA for impaired troops.
Yeah.
We're not asking for anything big, says Mr. Colburn. We're just saying that if you're going to take away the Second Amendment rights, they ought to have it adjudicated rather than mandated by someone who's unqualified to state that they should lose their rights. Basically, what they're saying is they should, instead of making a law or making an across-the-board measure, it should be more of a case-by-case.
Yeah, what they're saying is, okay, if you're going to want to take away
so they're trying to, tear apart the heart of the issue to create these other issues. And the real issue is the Second Amendment states, what is it? In order to, we shall have guns, and that right shall not be infringed. In today's language, you're allowed to have guns. You have a right to have guns, and that right can never be taken away, no matter what. That's what the Constitution says, basically.
Yeah, obviously.
But they've changed it. What do we read about what Janet Reno said?
Well,
she said
Reno, or look at what the current Attorney General says.
I got a few quotes here though, real quick. Janet Reno, she says, first, waiting periods are only one step. Registration is only one step. The prohibition of the private firearms is the goal, the ultimate goal. So what we're seeing, the waiting periods, the background checks, these are the beginning stages. I mean, they're going to ban guns. They have to. And this might be a good time, while we have a couple minutes left in this segment, to go through the rest of this history of gun confiscation and how it relates to genocide.
Yeah, okay. And I just want to follow up, too, while you're getting prepared for that. I just want to say this because I mentioned this about Benghazi earlier. The other side of Benghazi, just really quick, folks, is this. You've got AQIM, and you're going to be hearing about this, or maybe you won't. I don't know, but you deserve to know this. The CIA, their gun running operation involved both Ansar al-Sharia. When you say Ansar al-Sharia, you're talking about Iran, and AQIM, which is Al-Qaeda in the North African area. All right. Well, here's the deal with AQIM. There's probably 300, maybe 400 members of AQIM. It's a terrorist organization, Muslim terrorist organization. Now, Muslims, of course, don't condone drug usage, but in this case,
they sell them, don't they?
They do. The AQIM does. So
they do condone the use,
well,
I guess, in a twisted way.
Well, of course, but they're funding terrorist operations, so that makes it okay. But they're funding terrorist operations with the help of the CIA.
So if I start selling drugs to fund criminal and terrorist organizations, they'll leave me alone?
Only if you're Islamic, yeah.
Or grow a beard and change my name? I mean, this is really the logic we have in this country.
It's a convoluted logic.
That is sold to the public, and they don't care. The indifference.
But what people need to understand, and I can just summarize this in a couple of sentences, is this. AQIM is running drugs from the tri-border area of South America across northern Africa using the same trail of gun that the guns are being run from North Africa into Europe. Okay, using the similar trails across North Africa. Now, in addition to that, there's what's coming west. Well, if drugs are going from Central America, Central and South America to North Africa for distribution, ultimate distribution in Europe, well, is there anything coming west along that same route? Well, yes, there is. Terrorists, okay, CIA-backed terrorists, as a matter of fact, trained and funded terrorists, but also some weapons coming back. You thought Fast and Furious was bad. Weapons being taken across into Mexico from the United States. Well, you've got some loose, maybe one or more loose gas mortar shells that made their way to South America along the same AQIM route and into Mexico, and poof, they're lost. Now we know that the security on the southern border is such that nothing can get through.
What do you mean? They have drones. They have.
No, that's right.
Millions of checkpoints and border patrol agents down there. They're just 100 miles north of the border.
Well. So here's the thing, and people really have to understand this. You see, we're over there poking Russia in the eye, poking Syria in the eye, poking a whole bunch of people in the eye, and you don't think that they want to send a message back that's saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, your CIA is tough over here. You're trying to turn over Iran. You're trying to over Syria, You're trying to do all this. Well, guess what? We can hit you where you least expect it and where you're most vulnerable inside the United States. And I don't think it's going to you're going to have a gas weapon go off in San Diego or in a border town. That's not going to happen. No. Think in the heartland. Think Chicago. Think Detroit. Think somewhere north. Think away from that border as a message. Expect blowback from the Libyan-Syrian situation. And that's where I'll stop with that. So let's talk about the gun grab genocide stuff.
Absolutely. And I probably should give you some of these papers.
I've got it right here.
Okay. We started with the Armenian genocide. It killed about 1.5 to 2 million people between 1915 and 1917. The old Ottoman Empire in Turkey said that they were going to eliminate the Christian Armenians, and they did just that, first by drafting the Armenians into the army, and when they said they were taking them out to duty, instead they took them to forced labor camps where they were never seen from again. But what they did was disarm them first, and that was the example we went through the other day, but we're going to go over a few more now. The USSR, 60 million people killed by gun control. In 1917, when the communists came into power in the Soviet Union, they immediately passed laws making it impossible for non-party members to own firearms. Any violation of laws concerning firearms is punishable by forced labor. Now, I'm going to go back to the quotes of guns here. Dianne Feinstein said this: "Banning guns addresses a fundamental right of all Americans to feel safe. A gun owner," she's a gun owner with a concealed carry. That's not the quote I wanted to read. Mark Urban, this is it. "The thought that an average citizen will somehow be better able to successfully defend themselves more effectively than our nation's trained professionals is absurd." Official statement from Handgun Control Incorporated. It is also interesting to note that the top officials of Handgun Control Institute are gun owners themselves, and they also intend to keep on keeping them.
See, and why this is important, folks, is this. This is a window into history, and if people understand what the lead up to and involvement with the gun grab, you'll understand what they're attempting to accomplish.
It is so important when it comes to history, because history is an outline for the future, especially when things continue to repeat themselves. When you see, we'll say Nazi Germany, for example, that we saw the Reichstag, then we saw the Germany's version of the Patriot Act. I mean, these things are happening as they did before, the same way. Now we're being labeled and being called fringe and lunatics for believing in Jesus. Not even believing in the Constitution or freedoms, for believing in Jesus. We can see the stage being set. Going back to the USSR here, the Ukraine was the breadbasket for the state. They were where a lot of the imported food came from. Stalin needed the grain to export and sell for industrial expansion. In 1929, Stalin decreed that all farmland, livestock, and produce are property of the state. Sound familiar? Like the March 16, 2012 executive order issued by Barack Obama on the national resources. I forget the whole name of it, but it said just that, reaffirming previous executive orders stating that the government have the ability to confiscate anything that is yours or not theirs for any reason, not even at times of war, at times of peace as well. But what they did was Stalin cut off all food distribution. He cut off the food and starved an entire region. I think it's known as the unknown famine. Killed 11 million people with what he did with the food there. Another example, China. Nationalists or communists kill perhaps 100 million people using gun bans. In 1935, the national government came into power and decreed whoever, without authority, is found in possession of guns shall be punished with imprisonment. 4 million die in famines aggravated by the government's confiscation of crops. And this is going through a timeline here because we only have a few minutes left before the break. Also, Hitler kills 21 million, including race-specific gun control bans. In January of 1933, Hitler was elected democratically because of a gun registration law passed just 5 years earlier. His government already knows which Germans own guns. Licenses to obtain or carry firearms shall be issued only to persons whose reliability is not in doubt, and only after providing a need for them. Mass seizures of weapons from political opponents occur through modern record keeping. Obedient gun turn-ins and violent raids reduce ordinary Germans to helplessness. Within months, the Nazis finally consolidated their power and passed their own laws. A license shall not be granted if the applicant is a Jew.
By the way, folks, if you've purchased a gun at any time since 1968, the chances are very good that the government has a record of it somewhere, okay? So just to give you a frame of reference, that's how far back that they go. And, people think that I'll stop there. Go ahead and continue.
I want to read a quote from Jeff Cooper. I don't know who he is, but he said this in May 1944. That is why our masters in Washington are so anxious to disarm us. They are not afraid of criminals. They are afraid of a populace which cannot be subdued by tyrants. And that is really, in simple, the whole purpose of this gun control, gun grab, because they know an unarmed population is helpless. But going back to Nazi Germany, they said that they should not be granted a gun or a registration to have a gun if they were Jews. But in 1938, Germans attacked the Jews, looting storefronts, burning synagogues, committing murder. The next day, a law stating Jews forbidden to possess weapons is passed, including a firearm, club, or sharp-edged weapon. Now, if you go back about 20-some years earlier, the Ottoman Empire, the Turkey, did the same thing. They went around house to house, did confiscations, took knives, guns, anything to be considered a weapon. Basically, and it says here that Hitler was inspired and got ideas from the Armenian genocide. This is where he got some of his ideas from. And there's a lot of information on all this, so I'm trying to pick and choose. So we have...
And the history also shows, too, Joe, just to let you know, history also shows that when, at the same time that they go after the guns, they also go after the ammunition, make it nearly impossible to buy ammunition, and certainly illegal to possess it. If you want to know about, is it possible for a gun grab? Of course it is. Look what happened in Britain and Australia. But how are they going to do it? And this is what you're going through. So go ahead.
And I want to read this.
Which leads to genocide, by the way.
Yeah, all these cases lead to genocide. It's called democide, death by government. There's been over 170 to 250 million people killed in the last 100 years by governments from the same things we're going through now. The laws like the Patriot Act, labeling things a threat to national security. Then having an event, confiscating the weapons, then the people are helpless. I'm going to read this quote. We're going to go to break. This quote says, I am one of those who believe that the first step the U.S. should more exponentially move to is to disarm the civilian population, other than police and security officers, of all handguns, pistols, and revolvers. No one should have a right to anonymous ownership or use of a gun. Dean Morris's testimony to Congress. No slave shall keep any arms whatsoever, nor pass unless with written orders for his master or employer or his company, with arms from one place to another. Arms in possession of a slave, contrary to this prohibition, shall be forfeited to him who will seize them. That is a bill concerning slaves from Virginia in 1779, the second part, where they say no slaves shall keep any arms. And that speaks to the mentality of these people. I mean, this is what they really look at us as. Less than what slaves were looked upon as. I think slaves were given, what, a half a person, two-thirds? I don't know what kind of crazy, weird way they did that, but they hold no regard for the Constitution. They hold no regard. The only thing they're worried about is implementing their system of control. To do that, they have to disarm the people or bring about some other way of mass death, chaos, and destruction to where it wouldn't even matter if the people had guns. with that,
wait a second. Before we go to break, and I know we're running over, but let's run over for a minute. I just want to acknowledge a gentleman by the name of R. Keith Martin. Okay, R. Keith Martin is the author of a book called "It's Over," and I was gonna folks, 10 minutes before airtime, a box came to our office, and the book "It's Over" by R. Keith Martin was inside. In fact, a couple of books. I want to thank Mr. Martin. I know he's listening, as is his wife. Thank you both. But what you were saying, Joe, is this, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Mr. Martin, about his book, his website, his initiatives, and about the knowledge which is imparted there at a future time. But I want to thank him publicly. But I also want to say this with what you were talking about, Joe. Mr. Martin does go into democide in this book, and notes that America is fast approaching a point in time when freedom-loving people must decide between freedom and tyranny. There's no doubt among thinking people that Barack Obama is racing toward a totalitarian state. You've been told, for example, that Obama is steering us to socialism. If you think he's going to stop, get to that point and stop, then you don't know his philosophy, you don't know his ideology, you don't know his mentors, and certainly his cadre of facilitators, or the efforts already in place and those coming soon. Folks, look, Obama is already moving towards socialism, and I dare say, personally, I think he's there. Now, Mr. Martin labels him as a fascist. I believe that to be true. He and his closest associates are Marxist-Leninists. They look at the socialist state that would come into being with the overthrow of capitalism as nothing more than a stepping stone of dictatorship, of proletariat, through which the transition of the final stage of communism would be prepared. And he goes further. If Obama would do a little research, and if everyone would do a little research, the everlasting peace referenced by Obama, the very numbers, the very stuff you were talking about, Joe, about the gun grabs. Yeah. Look, folks, over 200 million innocent men, women, and children were brutally murdered by communists just in the 20th century alone, and facilitated by taking away our weapons.
More deaths than any other cause. So death by government, democide.
Absolutely.
And nobody worries about that. But
now let's go ahead and go to break.
And just one more point on the gun. If there was a gun ban, I think Abel would still be alive today, right? Was he shot or?
No, you know what? Abel,
I'm not saying this out of blasphemy or trying to be.
No, Cain used an AK-47 with NATO rounds to do it. You know what? Sometimes you just have to be a little bit absurd, of course.
No, killing has been around since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
It won't stop until people fix themselves. People won't fix themselves because they don't want to, they don't have the drive, or they like being the way they are. But that is why we are here, for the people who would like to try to do better in their lives, like we do, or trying to do better in our lives every day. We're growing together, and we will continue to do that. Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this December 6, 2012. We'll be back after these short messages.
Thank you, everybody, for being with us.
If you are stumped, you don't know what kind of gift to give to a friend or a loved one, I'm telling you, you must go to 4physics.com. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. This is your one-stop shopping palace. That's the only way I can put it. I could spend easily an hour on this website. Innovative, fun, educational. There are games, books, weather instruments, unique time-telling devices, jewelry, optical devices, laboratory equipment. Let me give you an example. We all know we can tell time with a sundial. You've seen those advertised. Did you know that you could tell time by the stars? At 4physics.com, you can buy a horologium nocturnum. This was a navigational device used in the 15th century by navigators at night to tell time by the stars. It's beautifully crafted in the shape of a pendant made of bronze and pewter or gold and silver. Absolutely a stunning gift. I would be proud to give it to anyone. You must go to 4physics.com. Even if you're not stumped, that's 4physics. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. It's your one-stop shopping palace. Any problems that you have, I don't know what to get Grandpa, I don't know what to get my loved one, that's unique, you will find it at 4physics.com. Please take my word for it. Go to the website, but give yourself a lot of time because you're not going to want to leave. 4physics.com.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the brick pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP brick packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth squads specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies that work right there in your neighborhood. KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
Doug Hagmann. One guy that doesn't need a bullhorn to get your attention.
You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our third and final hour of the Hagmann Report this Thursday, December 6th, 2000. I was almost going to say October.
Can't say it, can you?
Time goes so fast.
And how many? We should start our countdown. You know, folks, I'll tell you, I love Christmas. I love Christmas. Not the gifts,
the spirit of Christmas.
The spirit. You know, when you're around the Christmas tree and you've got a little fire in the fireplace if you have a fireplace, or just being around people, your family, and just being able to enjoy them. I love Christmas. So we should probably have 21 days until Christmas. No, what am I thinking? 19 days to Christmas. Holy cow. Christmas Eve. I just love Christmas Eve. Just the feeling and and we'll be talking too about what we're going to do programming wise for Christmas. But
yeah, we're still figuring that out, and we will definitely be on air for one of the probably Christmas night. It's looking like
right. I want to address an email right out of it, and then we're going to take your calls and do some other things, folks. And again, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much, every one of you, for just supporting our show, even if it's a simple, thank you or a prayer. Or
people have no idea the effect of a thank you message through email, mail, anything. We receive a lot, and each time it is so wonderful. You just have to thank the Lord that there are people out there. But it's not about us. It's about the Lord, and it's about what we need to do to do His will. What we have to do in our own lives, if we have to change anything to work according to His will. Because if we're not working according to His will, we're working according to our will,
right? But that never works out. I've tried that so many times, and I could tell you, man. When you're not doing what God wants you to do,
right? And it works the same way when you're helping other people, when you're going out of your way to, like Steve says, give a veteran $50, or like the police officer in New York who the video went viral for giving out boots. Those blessings do come back on you. I mean, they do 100%. I can attest to it.
And I can say this though: do it without the expectation of anything in return, and do it privately
and without contempt.
Yeah, there you go.
Because
Thank you.
I'm going to actually use this opportunity to tell us a short story here, very short. I have a friend who is in need, has problems, and family left, not because of anything he did, but he's a lonely guy, right? His whole world was just ripped out from underneath him. And to see a grown man go from a good working man to being so needy, and needy being needing friends, needing company, I found myself to a point where I felt bothered sometimes, and I had to apologize and sit down and think. And
you felt bothered by
because it would be 3 or 4 times a day. Give me a ride, kind of do it, and I don't have a problem helping him. He's one of my best friends, But I had to apologize because I found myself angry on the way to go help him the other day.
Like, come on,
and to think
really,
somebody who's going through all that.
That's right.
And I'm, getting angry because I have to go out of my way for a half hour or whatever. I just felt so bad, and it helped me realize that that is so important. That's why it talks about in the Bible. Do not give, what does it say? With begrudgingly.
But I think you said it well. Don't give with contempt in your heart. And
right.
I think that's it's like when, oh really, I've got to go visit grandma in the home again.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, come on.
I went through that too.
Yeah.
My grandmother was sick 2 years ago. She passed away in April 2011, and taking care of somebody for a few years, relative. You know how it is with relatives. You fight. Yeah. Argue here and there, bicker, but there were times where I was the same way. I had that contempt.
Oh, but yeah. It's like, luckily, again, I got to go down and sit with her again.
Thank the Lord that when those times were going on, she still had a lot of time left, and I mean, nothing. You don't say anything.
But some of the most beautiful conversations I'll bet you had, and I didn't talk to you about this before, but some of the most meaningful conversations I'll bet were during those times.
Yeah.
During the times when you were sitting with her and
didn't want to be there,
right? But think back. Wow, you wouldn't trade that time for anything. But
no, not at all. I wish I could be there again.
And see,
it's common though. It's our human nature, and that's what we have to overcome is our human nature, and we can't do that unless we have the Lord in our life.
That's right.
It's impossible.
And see what's coming down the pike, folks. What we're going to be facing here. We're months away from it, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're a year or two. I don't know, but I think we're months away from it. But see, what we're going to be facing, We can't do it alone. And when I say that, I don't mean we need 20,000 people being now with God, but with other key people, okay, and us together, us meaning Joe and I and you, or just you folks if Joe and I are taken out of the picture. I mean, who knows, But we need to be a family. And even if look, families disagree on a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, my goodness, we're on the dinner table, Can you, disagree? A lot of disagreements. But, boy, imagine somebody trying to break down that door of the family home. The disagreements suddenly stop, don't they? And man, you're a team now. You're going to be fighting whoever's trying to break down that door. That's what I'm talking about. But even if you are alone, physically, you're not alone because we're together. But anyway, I want to. Mike sent this via email, and I want to address this. Mike writes this: my group of companies did today, and folks, this affects all of us here. Okay, my group of companies did today what I think is disturbing, and wonder if it's happening elsewhere. So, ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. Maybe it's happening where you work. Okay. This happened suddenly and quietly, according to this happened suddenly and quietly. Effective on Monday, the first day of January, effective the first day next year. Money market / cash will not be a 401k investment option. I'm not even sure I understand what that means.
Can you repeat that?
Okay, effective January 1st of 2013, money market / cash will not be a 401 investment option. Folks, I'm not
sure. Money market accounts?
No, money market or cash will not be a 401 investment option. Like I said, I'm not sure, ladies and gentlemen, if you can clarify that. Does that make sense
for financial people out there?
Yeah, stocks and bonds, only no commodities. I think the elite are forcing this money into the market. Then in come the shorts, as Steve described, to plummet the market. So, okay, or they are forcing as much money into markets as possible, knowing tax hikes will pull trillions out of the market.
Sorry, that was me.
You know what?
I want to apologize. People are post links in the chat room to videos and stories, and I open them up and try to bookmark them before the sound comes on. And I didn't catch that.
I thought a car was going to come right through the studio door here. All right. Anyway, let's see. I have no way to withdraw, no hardship currently, unless I quit my job and transfer money to IRA and cash out. So, what Mike is asking here, apparently, from what I'm able to gather, and folks, I don't know whether you were able to grasp this. Mike, you're going to have to talk to me like I'm 6 because I don't really know. So effective, what Mike is saying here is, according to what's going on with his company, first day of January, cash, we'll just say cash, will not be a 401k investment option. Is that going on where you work, folks? Is it? I mean, if it is, let us know. Let us know the significance of that.
The listener sent me some information that I need to go through again about their changes on healthcare statuses based on Obamacare, and I'll have to look for
okay, Mike,
a reference.
Mike, I'm going to tell you this. We're going to get an answer for you, and then really quick, I want to thank a listener. She doesn't give me her permission to use her name, so I'm not going to. Bill Gates funding drone technology. You know why, folks? You ready for this? Bill Gates funding drone technology to deliver vaccines. Go figure.
Codex Alimentarius. There's a lady who, and I don't know, I don't want to screw this up. I'm not sure if Jason had them on their show or not, but a lady who knows Codex Alimentarius inside and out. There is a movie on YouTube, a documentary.
Wait a minute. What did you just say?
Codex Alimentarius.
What is that?
There's, you don't know what that is? It is a plan in place to get. It's a multi-pronged plan. It's kind of like Agenda 21, and it deals with food and forced inoculations. There's everything in place for mandatory vaccinations, except the order to actually carry it out. We saw the case recently where 150 workers were terminated for refusing a flu shot. What they plan to do, apparently, and I don't have a full understanding of the Codex Alimentarius. I have read some stuff, I've seen a few videos, but this one video I'm talking about stuck out to me very much, and they talk about how the groundwork is in effect to push mandatory vaccinations to the point where you will go to special camps if you refuse these vaccinations.
Okay.
I mean, it's in laws, and I know I do this a lot. I read a lot of legislation. It's like, I don't know, reading obituaries of people you don't know. It's very difficult to get through, or maybe that's a bad analogy. But what is happening, whether it's vaccinations, guns, our money supply, all norms, the way we think things are, the way things are kind of now, or the way they used to be, will be diminished or destroyed. There's going to be a new standard. That standard is you will be disarmed, you will be inoculated, and you will obey. And those who don't, you will be disappeared. You will be NDAA'd. And now, what it bothers me about this is, will this be, and America, we have to remember, we're one small part of the world. We're one little faction of the world. We can't expect, I mean, if something happens in America where it would kill half the population here, that's not the end of the world. Like the same way people act about the drone strikes in Pakistan, Yemen, do people in America freak out and go crazy? Is there anarchy? No. Why? Because they're not drone striking their neighborhoods. But is the rest of the world going to care if the United States gets taken out? They're going to cheer. They hate America, whether justified or not.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is part of a big part of what we're referring to. Okay, us as a country, we will be taken out. We will be defanged as an economic and military superpower. That's the agenda behind. That's the agenda that's been going on for a number of years, if not decades, and perhaps a century. But that doesn't mean our life is over. Your life, my life. We still, there's still going to be things happening. People are still going to get married and divorced, and things are still going to be going on. As I said earlier in the program, but life is going to change as we know it. Yes. And so yes, but the depopulation aspect that you were talking about, and I'm sorry, I must be the only person out there that never heard of that, or at least not by that name. That the agenda, that directive or procedure. Wow. Okay, but yeah. So, but folks, this is kind of heavy stuff to really consider and contemplate when my friend was telling me, the person involved in the intelligence was telling me about what to expect. Just imagine the worst thing you can imagine, like Sandy. Let's say being in the middle of Sandy. Multiply that by 4, by 10. That you can expect that here in the United States. Okay, now that's a crisis. Okay. It almost seems contradictory to say, well, life's still going to go on, and it's not going to be that bad. But it's going to be bad, but life still will go on.
Some people will survive.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, and exactly. Life will still go on as it did in New Jersey and New York. People still went to school and work, but after the initial,
completely different.
Right. That's kind of, yes, and perhaps I was a little bit off in explaining that, but that's what I mean. The other thing too, I just want to throw this out there for everyone. Best guess on what could happen here in the United States. Best guess, and this could be related to the Olympics. I don't know, but best guess is, and I told Joe before the show I wasn't going to mention this, but yeah, I'll mention it. maybe some sort of pandemic, some sort of flu, some sort of virus.
Yeah, let me read you the article I did mention, and I want to thank whoever posted this in the chat room yesterday. And I thought this could relate to what you were talking about. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. Probe of Antarctica's hidden lakes may yield clues to extraterrestrial life. But what this says in the article is that there are these unknown pathogens that could be viruses.
I heard about that.
It says scientists do not know what they will discover, but believe they will find bacteria, viruses, single-cell microorganisms, and complex cell organisms called eukaryotes. And it goes on to say that some of these could be viruses without cures, and they could affect people in very. I mean, they don't know what could happen, but the results of this getting out to the public or contaminating people could be catastrophic, or it could be nothing or minimal. But this risk is here, and to see this piece, it just, as soon as I read this, I thought of what you said before the show yesterday. And yes, it is a real possibility. What easier way is there? I mean, think of all the trouble that would happen, the blood that would be spilled from going door to door and collecting guns.
Believe me, it would not be an easy day.
What would be the easiest thing to get rid of as many people, like so many people they need to get rid of, according to them?
Oh,
it would be a invisible enemy that, like a virus, like a pandemic, like the plague. It would be something like that, where you could really not point a finger of blame on any individual or government right away, especially in the midst of all that chaos and people dying. That would, to me, trying to think like these people would be the most efficient way to get rid of the population. Now, take into consideration the mass fatality planning. What are all those FEMA coffin liners and
folks, what?
And you read globalist documents where they talk about the threats of some. We saw it with the H1N1. It turned into H1N5. Then they said, there's a new strand that has no cure, and it's very dangerous if it gets out. And it was created in a lab. And the anthrax after 9/11, that was sent out, and it ended up being U.S. military-grade anthrax. It came from the people who were the ones who were the victims, basically. Except, you know what I'm saying,
right? It's very difficult to really wrap your brain around, but it all comes down. I mean, in my view, it all comes down to this: the people that are planning. It's a different mindset. We as Christians, and I find it very difficult. I mean, I can accept walking into, let's say, a crime scene. I can accept that and seeing a body, two bodies, dead people, and see the hatred, the evil behind that one incident. But when you're talking about a Stalin or a Hitler or the agenda behind those individuals, that is so difficult, I think, for really normal people, and I consider myself normal. My wife might have a few things to say about that.
I do too.
Yeah,
I'm not normal either, though.
But I mean, it's so difficult for us to comprehend that mentality where we're nothing but cattle or sheep.
We are
to these people
now considered less than that.
Right.
Useless eaters.
Okay.
There's so many names they have. You can get into human resources. Why is it termed that?
Oh,
you can get into the wording of laws and the changing of definitions, and whether a human or a person or a citizen, some people say that we, under the color of the wording of the law, we are considered animals because we're not either people or humans. I'm not sure exactly the terminology and how it goes, but there is a distinction in the government, and they have it all. You know how you can read one of their PDFs. They say one important thing in 50 pages, but and this goes to the sovereign citizens movement. They're the ones that really, I saw them point this out. That goes to how you can get around, how they say you can get around certain things by changing your status from a individual or a citizen to a human.
But see,
but it's that deep and it's that dark.
Right, but okay. Now you mentioned that movement. Let me just say this about that. Very simply, we're not going to. I don't believe personally we're going to win at that level. We have to win. I think it would be futile to attempt to win at that level when the opposition has all the judges basically in their pocket. And I don't want to insult judges that aren't in the pocket of the powers. I'm talking about the federal judges that are appointed, that make decisions based on political ideology as opposed to the Constitution. And we're not going to prevail if we fight in that venue. We've got to measure up elsewhere and take the fight elsewhere outside of that system. Am I advocating warring on the streets? No. What I'm saying is we're not going to find redress within that judicial system that's built up when you're fighting a political ideology instead of going by the rule of law. That's what I'm saying. And lastly, I want to thank the individual that's responsible for providing me with all of the accurate inside information about Benghazi and others. Apparently, he's listening tonight. He wanted to make a correction, make sure that I was correct in my in what I had said. You know what? If I said this, I apologize. Certainly, I didn't mean to come out this way. We did not train, nor are we training AQIM or Answer al-Sharia. Okay, if I said that, I apologize because I got sometimes my brain is engaged, or my mouth is engaged before my brain is. We are fighting them, and they are fighting back. Okay, so Answer al-Sharia, the Iranian-backed rebel group that's going into Syria, we're fighting them. AQIM, we're fighting them. I mean, the good guys are fighting them. Okay, so when I AQIM, the drug running stuff and the chemical weapon, that is payback for what we're doing over there. So I want to thank you very much, sir, for correcting me on this, and I just want to thank you publicly thank you for your folks. If you doubt the credibility or the knowledge of this individual, the source that I've got, I mean, look at today's headlines and look at the articles that were and listen to the broadcast a month ago. Yeah. Right on the money. So, but thank you for that correction and that keep me honest there. And I apologize for that.
We got this piece of news: online sales tax to be added to the Defense Authorization Bill. This may be the last Christmas of online shopping without paying sales tax. A proposed online sales tax has been offered as an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act, much to the ire of opponents. The Computer and Communications Industry Association, a group that opposes this move, says that the online sales tax will burden small businesses, some of the most promising candidates for future economic growth. The proposal and other online sales tax collection proposals like it would allow states to penalize the innovative e-commerce business model by targeting small online businesses as convenient sources of revenue, says the CCIA President and CEO Ed Black. The Marketplace Fairness Act and its House counterpart, the Marketplace Equity Act, seek to clarify and arguably overturn a 1992 Supreme Court ruling that requires retailers to have a physical presence in a state in order to collect sales tax on goods.
So there we go.
Yeah, so
there we go.
Yeah. Severing the relationship between taxation and physical presence would be a fundamental transformation in how we consider taxes. Once again, the way they did this healthcare mandate, or the Obamacare, saying it's not a tax, it's a penalty. Then they hire 16,000 IRS agents and say they're going to go collect the taxes, but they're penalties. The Supreme Court ruled it was a tax.
Right.
They still say no, it's just a penalty. But anyway, back to the article. Severing the relationship between taxation and physical presence would be a fundamental transformation in how we consider taxes. He continued, such a significant step deserves more extensive consideration than an attachment to an unrelated defense authorization bill. And they do this a lot. They will slip, I forget what I read the other day, where they put something into a bill that, I mean, you're talking like putting up a sign or dedicating a highway to some, congressman. And in their bill, they have something on, right. Regulating food, and it had nothing to do with
right. It's totally right. And that, by the way, was the same thing with Coburn and the veterans classification. He slipped that into a bill, unrelated to what that was all about, which that should be illegal or should not be done. But
goes on to say, still a recent poll indicates the majority of Americans support the idea. I find that very hard to believe. I don't know anybody who would like to pay more taxes unless they are the Obama supporters. But they say they also feel a tax for online purchases would encourage people to buy local and keep tax dollars in their community. Or, in other words, stop using the internet and the businesses on there. Local retailers invest in their communities and play a significant role in the overall quality of life, according to this from the Daily Caller. Well, that is a very broad assessment there, because who knows what so many employees, what they do with their profits if they do anything for the community.
No,
a lot do.
Well, of course they do.
But the many don't. I mean, look at places like the Red Cross. They've been found to be, their executives make 6-7 figures a year. When you sent your $10 to Haiti through text messages, I don't think 90% of the money got there. It's been recorded. But anyway, back to the tax issue. It says, local retailers invest in their communities and play a significant role in the overall quality of life in the places we call home. This is Baisley Lyard, a senior vice president to the global public policy for the International Council of Shopping Centers. The International Council of Shopping Centers.
Right.
When they say we're going to be under international law, it's not just for guns. It's for everything, apparently.
Look, we're going toward a global system. This is all part of it. We're going to lose our national identity. We've lost most of it. But more importantly, we're going to lose our individual freedoms because of it. Folks, that's what you need to understand.
Yeah, it says, it goes on, it's not the job of small businesses to collect taxes to provide revenue relief for state and local governments outside their jurisdiction, Black said, suggesting that an online tax would protect existing businesses at the enterprise of consumers and growth. Some Republicans are on board with Wyoming Senator Mike Enzi as the most overlooked tax loophole. We are optimistic that once the Marketplace Fairness Act is brought for a vote, it will have enough support to pass, Democratic Senator Richard Durbin said. Both Senator Durbin and Enzi have offered the bill as an amendment to the NDAA 2013. Durbin is focused on working with his colleagues to try to get a vote on the bill before the end of this year, whether as a standalone bill or as part of a larger piece of legislation, meaning as sneaking it into another bill.
Right.
They're all keeping options on the table at this point. What they are doing here, and just to summarize this, anything that is the government does not have their hands directly involved in or have complete 100% control over,
right,
it's going to disappear, because that's all they're doing. They're going after everything. When they're telling you can't use cash at garage sales, you can't even have garage sales anymore because they can't track the revenue. This is the system of the mark of the beast, the beginning systems. You can see that how they are doing this. They are making you on alert, putting you on alert for those who are paying attention, that they're going to keep track of every penny you make. Now they have, through Obamacare, the IRS getting involved with your health care. And not only that, the disclosure of information, your private health information, to the government, and also including your financial information, and they say it's for what? The safety of the president.
Can you imagine, of the president? Not of the safety of the fellow man, but of the president.
Right. Not in the best interest of the United States or the people they're in. For for the president. And it's just how things are. I mean, that's the society we live in. When we have been indifferent for as long as we have, and I'm not talking to our audience as Americans here, when we, I mean, really, we grew up, and I know I grew up in a way that everything seemed fine. Meanwhile, you have these real Satanists working 24/7 across the world, under the table, behind the scenes, to do away with anything that is good. And America was good once, I believe, and at least in a sense for freedom. Now, the motives behind the setting up of America, all that can be debated. But the capitalist system, the free market system, people blame. They say that is, it's evil, the worst economic system in the world. Well, no. If people followed biblical principles, if the whole world, every individual in the world, followed the Bible, and the whole world was under capitalism, nobody would starve ever, because people would do what they're supposed to do. Those that have more would help those that have less, and so on and so on.
But people want to demonize capitalism.
Right, but it's not capitalism we have today.
It's capitalism. It's actually, by definition, fascism.
Fascism, correct. Right. Fascism has been here for a long time. And now I'm going to go on to this article. A recent Gallup poll says 53% of Democrats have a positive image of socialism, which shocks me. And not that I believe Gallup poll, or I know no polling place is perfect, but, I mean, really? It says, according to a Gallup poll, asked participants if they have a positive or negative image of socialism. 53% of Democrats and leaning Democrats said they have a positive image, while 23% of Republicans and leading Republicans said their image is also positive. 23% of Republicans, they asked, said socialism's good. Now, these must not... apparently they don't understand what Republican means. You can't be a Republican if you're a socialist. Anyway,
I think Republican is an archaic term now, and I don't believe that. I mean, socialism. Just so people understand this, socialism is a concept that conspirators, by the way, exploit.
I want to read this comment on this article.
Go ahead.
A communist take over America without a shot fired. In other nations, the people fight communism takeovers and sometimes stop it. Why did Americans buy so many guns? The guy asked. And it's true. Think about it. That was not the reason Hitler invaded Russia, was to stop communism, but that's what they'll tell you in the history books. But, yeah, they fight these tyrannical government systems. The only people who make out in these systems are the leaders, inside men. Everybody else is like a prison.
People don't understand that the socialism, the people who are behind socialism have no intention of dividing their personal wealth.
Not at all. I mean, the people who go on TV and say we need to ban guns have bodyguards, and those bodyguards carry guns. And I bet if they didn't, then they would fire him and hire ones who did. It's hypocritical. It is obviously sabotage from within. It is not their ideals or their beliefs, in my opinion. Not at all. I mean, this is the plan. They know what they're doing.
And it scares me sometimes when people say that Jesus was a socialist. No.
Not in the way that people are referring to a socialist. If I was to say anything, Jesus would be considered... what would be a good word? What would be a word for selfless? He was selfless,
right?
He wasn't a socialist. He was a selfless. And so he didn't take money away from other people to give it to the poor. He said, "This is what you should do. This is what you should follow. If you want to follow me, if you want to save your soul, you do this." Well, he didn't say, "I'm going to institute a government that's going to take away your money to give to others." And in the perfect world, nobody would be poor or be starving because people would take care of each other. But we don't live in a perfect world. And it is getting worse and worse. The intensity is picking up. As you said, After September 11th this last year, sometime before or after that, something changed.
I would say
I felt lost doing our radio show for a week. They say if you can't notice the change while it happens and don't catch up, you can get lost. And I read that like a week ago, and I thought about how I felt after that happened, and it was true. I mean, it's just we have to be smarter than their dumb logic. We have to combat I mean, you can sit there and listen to all the TV news you want. You're not going to get hardly any truths out of there. You could be a firm believer in the Lord in the morning, sit there and watch different news stations all day, and by the end of the day, you're going to be rooting for Obamacare if you're not careful. It's like a form of hypnotism.
Well, exactly.
It's dangerous.
And let's just be clear. Socialism really is the government ownership and or control, either or, over the basic means of production and distribution of goods and services. That's what socialism is. Just to be clear, it's a government ownership.
And it's not just people who are overtly trying to make this happen. As Martin Luther King said, he who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who has helped perpetrate it.
Just like tolerance, tolerance of evil, when that happens, then tolerance itself becomes an evil action. And what's taking place here in this country is, under this regime, and even before that, Bush had a hand in it, and certainly Clinton had a hand in it, and Papa Bush had a hand in all of this, is to push us towards socialism in order for us to succumb to this one world order. And that's, we talk about the Illuminati. Well, the goal of these people, I mean, it's hard to talk, or it's difficult, or it's disingenuous to talk about the plans of Obama, socialism, and all this without going back to the roots, finding out, okay, what's going on here.
It's hard enough to talk about it without being called a racist, let alone actually getting into the issues. That's how they can throw you off your game, and the talking points is somebody arguing for socialism comes on and gives their point, and then they go to the other person who's for capitalism, and they start talking, well, that's racist, that's inequality. Nobody was guaranteed equal outcomes, only equal opportunity. That's what makes America so great. Those that want to do for themselves and do for themselves will survive and succeed. Those who are too lazy or care less, don't want to do anything for themselves, will fail. That is really a law of nature, survival. You can't survive if the economy collapses and there's no food on the store shelves. Do you think people are still going to be sitting on their couches watching their blank TV screen? No, they're going to be trying to survive. Well, they need that urgency now.
Very, very well said. They do. And we do. And if nothing else, ladies and gentlemen, if we can do nothing else, we just want to be the conduits between. We want to be conduits for the truth. That's all we want to do, and we want to be able to help all of us. Let's work together to fight a common enemy that's destroying our family unit, that's attacking our religion, our faith, I should say. That's attempting to exterminate Christianity. Let's work together, and if we can be conduits to that end, or a means to that end, that's what we want to do. That's what we're trying to do via this radio program.
Yeah, our physical bodies are already dead. We will die one day. That is 100%.
Already dead.
100%.
We'll
all be dead one day.
Of course we will. Yes.
And if there are people listening out there who are on the fence or don't believe in an afterlife, if you don't believe in an afterlife and you die and there is one,
surprise.
Yeah. But that's not a reason to believe. Just to I'm gonna, because I've seen this reasoning before, reading something an atheist wrote. Well, I'd rather be safe than sorry, so I'll say
that's a disingenuous
right, and that
way to feel.
Is not going to get you saved.
No.
Jesus knows your heart, and you think if you're doing it as an insurance policy, and that's all, that's going to get you the keys to the kingdom. I mean, you have to have your whole heart, mind, body, and soul in this, and if you don't, you're better off, as the Bible says, to never have been born. Because in the Bible it says the lukewarm are going to get worse off than non-believers, the way I understand it. It's just all or nothing,
and that's why I'm pretty adamant about. You look at abortion. Here we sit, and Roe v. Wade 63. You know that decision. We're kind of watching abortion. What are we doing about it? Have we acquiesced and said, "Well, there's nothing I can do about this"?
This is it's unfortunate we only have like 5 minutes left because we should talk about this because this is an important issue. What can we do? You can't go around killing abortion doctors. Obviously, that's murder.
Of course not.
You can't go around and burning down the buildings when nobody's in there because that's destruction of property.
No, but you know what I think. You know what I think is one of the most powerful things is not. Look, and I know this, folks. You know this, but knowledge and unity of purpose. See, 1, 2, 6 people, protesting abortion. When I say protesting or putting their foot down, no, we need unity and unity of purpose.
And Carrie in the chat, thank you. We need prayer.
And prayer, of course we do.
When things are too big for us to take care of ourselves, there is one greater than all of us, and He will help us.
But action and prayer are not mutually exclusive. We can do both, and I think what we have to do, Joe, is really we have to be conduits to a solution, and whatever that solution may be, we have to act on it. And at least in our leadership point position, we can, and we're doing our best to work things out in terms of how best to do that, how best to serve in our capacity, and to serve you, our listeners, and to serve God as well.
Absolutely. And with that, we're going to end the show a couple minutes early here.
I want to say this. We're sorry for not taking calls tonight.
Yeah, no.
There's just so much on our minds, and when you say we're going to end the show a couple minutes early, I just want to remind people that I just want to me close in saying this. For all the people that have emailed us and sent us nice notes and helped us out financially, I just want to say thank you so very much. I believe we're good stewards. I believe we are attempting to be good stewards with everything. We want to grow. We want to be able to give you not a polished product, but an effective product. We'll never, you know what? Listen to us. We're never going to be polished, okay? But it's something that's effective. And I want to thank you for helping us do that. We're reaching people in all continents. In many countries. Okay, and we couldn't do that without your help. I just want to say thank you for that. We're humbled by that, and but we have a job to do, and let's do it together. Let's do it together, and let's work it. Let's work together. Let's get the job done. And Lindsey Williams, we have to call Joe. I want to tell you that.
Yeah,
and he's coming on here shortly.
And back to what you talked about, the book we got today. I want to thank also Keith Martin, who sent this book to us. It's
Martin.
over.
Ron Martin.
Yeah,
Keith Martin.
We're going to have him on, and this little bookmark from the book here. Forget the political solutions. Forget the 2010 election. Socialism is already here. Race-based tyranny is next. Then the killing fields. This book is called "It's Over," and it talks about. Let me read you a couple of the sections here. It goes into homosexuality, abortion, the nanny state, education, terrorism, military, slavery, white slavery, black slavery, Obama's record, his manifesto, Obama's demons, useful idiots, cap and trade, criminal suffrage, nationalizing, the final solution. I haven't read the book yet. Just the first.
It's got moments
right
before the end of the.
And it looks
at the beginning of the program.
Like it's a great read. The title is
90 seconds.
Yeah, 432 pages. Ron Martin is what a guy, and I'll tell you what. Look, we're all in this. I'm sorry, Joe. I interrupted and I didn't say anything. We're all in this together, Mr. Martin. Thank you very much for the book. We're going to have you on, and we're going to be talking about this because there's a lot of information in there, in the note that he sent and such. It's just it's people are waking up.
60 seconds.
People are knowing that we're facing trouble, and we have to ride that wave.
Not only do we have to ride that wave, we have to help guide them in the right direction.
There you go.
Folks, you have a good night. We will see you here tomorrow night at the same time. God bless each and every one of you. We can't thank you enough for joining us, whether archive or live listens. We so much appreciate it. Have a great night. God bless.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.